Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage. Have we got a show for you? Andy Timmons, what can I say? Shredder in the 80s and 90s, amazing musician. People love this guy. I think he is the most beloved musician I've ever met. He's incredibly well studied. He has brilliant technique, but doesn't come across like a technician. He writes amazing music that people most often describe as heartfelt. And he's got an amazing sense of humor on top of it. And, well, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Timmons. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Doug. Thanks for having me, man. It's so good to see you.
What a pleasure. So
Oh
you're
man,
in McKinney, Texas. Is that correct?
I'm north of Dallas, about 30 minutes. Yeah, it's a call it a Dallas suburb. Yeah, we've been here now for about 23 years or so. So it's home.
That's awesome. So we have had, well, I will selfishly say, I have had the most fun preparing for tonight's show. So just in
Great.
case, people haven't figured this out about Andy, is first of all, everybody adores him, but he is a consummate professional. I mean, his attention to detail. I've had some fairly talented, successful guitar players on the show, but Andy is as prepared, if not more, than anybody that I've ever had the privilege of working with. And it's really his taking care of business in a non-taking care of business kind of way is really endearing, and he's just on it. So it's
That
actually
means a
I
lot. That means a lot coming from you because that's one thing I admire so much about you. A, you're a great player, but I've seen you in so many different capacities at some of the camps that we've done together, and always with the most positive energy. But for you, but if you're saying to me you think I have my business in together, well, that's a great compliment because I've never seen anybody with so many things going on at the same time and just taking care of all of it. So I'm very honored by that from you, Doug Doppler.
well that warms the cockles of my heart. And cockles is a real
Aw,
word. It comes
that's a
apparently
tough
from
word.
cocculi, which is the
Yeah,
little areas in the heart. All right. So first of all,
I'm just a little nervous talking about cockles, though. I'm just going to throw that out there.
it is an
But thank you.
awkward word,
I
but
like, I like your etymology, and I appreciate that.
there we go. And I love that. So first of all, hello to everybody that's joining us. The chat is
Yes.
blowing up over here. So
All right. Hey, everybody.
I promise to you, first of all, that I will do my very best to not have a two-way conversation. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and monitor the questions here that come in, and we absolutely want some questions. It's meant to be
Yes.
interactive. So the thing
Sure.
is this is like give us some questions, and by all means, commentary, comments, just knock yourselves out because that is actually the most entertaining part. As I
Yeah.
love watching people engage one another, and in this particular time in particular, it's actually really good for have these out working, which gets us to your Saturday event. So I had the
Oh
privilege
man.
on Saturday afternoon to tune in and see you play. So first of all, Andy, hang on. Let's just go there.
Yeah.
Hang on just one second. There we go.
Sure.
So Andy, first
Hello.
of all, on the right there is a URL for Stage It. Can you tell us in your
Yeah.
own words about what you do and when you do it and when you're going to be doing it again?
Yeah. So this is like everybody else, once things shut down and for all us players, all our gigs, went away. All the European tours I had booked. I was going to the UK with Daniel Steinhardt was gonna, he and I was gonna play with his band. We were gonna play the Cavern. I was going to Liverpool for the first time. Anyway, everybody's got their sob stories about all the gigs that they lost. But I noticed that a friend of mine that I know, there's a guy named Jarrett Reddick who is from a Dallas-based band called Bowling for Soup. Really kind of cool, real cool power pop kind of band, right? And I saw he was doing these live streaming gigs on a platform called Stage It. So I just reached out to him on Facebook, said, man, I'm looking, I got to figure out what I'm going to do, to have some gigs and figure out, how to generate some income. So he kind of introduced me to the guy that owned the company and set me up. And with the help of my neighbor, Rob Wexler, who's very tech savvy, kind of got me up and running. But the funny thing is, Doug, that I saw that, when my buddy was posting his gigs, it'd be like, 2 p.m., US time, 8 p.m. UK time, because he's got a lot of fans over in the UK. So, well, that's cool. He's doing two gigs, one for US folks and then one for the the UK folks, well, it was just one gig. It's just the time difference, right? But I had it in my head from the beginning, like, well, I'm going to do 2 shows a Saturday, like my buddy Jerry. What the heck? So I'll do 2 different shows. 2 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, and I've done over 50 shows now. And basically, the way it's set up, it's that you're limited to 50 minutes, 50 minutes. So within that period of time, I play quite a few songs, and like what's going on this YouTube right now, that the people that come can, they can interact with each other, and they can watch, then hear the music going on. But over the course of those 50 weeks, there's a large majority that have come to every show. And what's been happening is, like, there's these really great friendships that have developed within the group of people that come out. And as perks, there's kind of a people. It's you can also, as far as the tickets go, you can pick a ticket price. Some people pick $10, $20. I make it so, but people can literally pay whatever they want. If they don't want to pay anything, or 50 cents, they can come in. A lot of people, obviously want to contribute more, and so they can do that if they're able to do that. And then within the platform, they can tip you, which is kind of a weird thing, but this is what we're doing, right? And so to the ones that tip the most, I give away Skype lessons, and I give away, signed CDs. So there's incentives and perks along the way. But it's been really gratifying, and it kicks my butt, because to do 2 shows every week and trying to make each of them different, it becomes challenging. But it's a very forgiving crowd and fan base that I have. So yeah, I can experiment with stuff and take chances a bit more, and it's been really gratifying in that way.
Well, all right. So I will just say the thing that amazed me was, out of the box, it was the best live streaming tone I've ever heard.
Wow. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, again, obviously, I'm blessed that because I can. It's my home setup, so it's how I record guitar. I'm in my main studio now, which is, it's the upstairs of my home, so it's like a rec room, and then there's a guest bedroom that's isolated, and I can put my 2 Mesa Boogie rectifier 212 cabs in there. That's my main recording rig anyway. So I've just got that mic'd up through some Neve preamps and going through a Mackie mixer that I can also feed my tracks through, which are good sounding tracks, and then I blend it all together, stereo feed out to the Scarlett, and then into OBS. So not too different than the way I'll be recording. And then with my friend Rob Wexler, a recording engineer that I've worked with since 1988, lives 2 doors down from me, which is real handy, because when my stuff's not working, like 2 minutes before showtime, like, Rob, come help me out, And,
do you open up the window and yell out the window?
We have a bat phone. It's a string and 2 cups. We just got the string run down the street. So it's with the help of my friends, but we've got it somewhat fine tuned. But I'm glad it was coming across well to you. And you didn't tell me you were tuning in. You should have told me, man. I'll give you the shout out.
Way more fun. I mean, that's kind of, well. First of all, I wanted to be able to observe it like a member of the audience, right? And that was what was so neat about it, is I got a chance to watch you come on, because all right. Yeah. So I take it you saw Stevie Ray, right?
No, I did not. We can talk about that. That's a whole nother show. I had 2 opportunities that didn't pan. Anyway, I did not see Stevie Ray.
So
can I cry during the program? Is that okay to cry?
You can cry. I don't have any canned applause or crying or anything.
Well, I'll just weep on my own. That's fine.
You can while your guitar gently weeps.
Yeah, exactly.
So just so you know, every Beatles joke known to people.
Yeah, exactly. So you're asking me about Stevie Ray.
So the funny thing is, I saw Stevie Ray at the Stone, which is just it was 1983.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. So
wow.
He's just quit David Bowie's band because he didn't like being dressed up in that outfit. And he was like, you know what, David, I appreciate the stadium tour, the $100,000, but you know what? I'm just not down with this. It's cool. Thanks, David. It's been fun.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go play clubs.
Yeah.
And so we came to the San Francisco Bay Area. My buddy Eric Dinwiddie's band, the Uptones, opened. And so I'd heard it on the radio, and I was like, okay, this guy has Hendrix in his bones. I'm going.
Yes.
I am at the edge of the stage at the Stone in San Francisco. My buddy Jimmy Arsenault's on here. Jimmy used to book the Stone. It was one of those venues. And my guess is, if you did a club tour with Danger Danger, you played the Stone on Broadway. Not on Broadway, but the Stone on Broadway.
I see. Yeah, no. I think the only time we played San Francisco was Alice Cooper, and we played the Warfield.
I was going to say that would be a larger
Yeah,
deal, but good.
yeah. Well,
So
that
in
yeah. I
any case,
mean, clubs. Yeah. Anyway.
When Stevie Ray was down there playing the clubs that you didn't,
Yes, dear.
um, he he comes out and he's got the hat on, and
Yeah.
the downlight is on him, and all you see is the shadow of the hat, and it's just like the guitar, the swell of the volume
Yeah.
control, and all he does
Uh,
is kind of hang down there, and the
yeah.
band, it's Double Trouble, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, so literally, I'm 4 feet from him, watching the
Wow.
whole thing.
Oh God.
It's the vibroverb, it's the
Yeah.
super reverb. It's just
So
before the
that's kind of
doubles.
the era of the El Macombo video, right? It's like that, like Texas Flood was just coming out.
I don't
Ish, right?
remember. I don't know what year that
82, 83.
That's exactly when it was. And
But that, I mean, I think everybody can agree that that is one of the best documented guitar performances that El Macombo. I mean, it's just they're just hitting their stride, man, and it's on fire, and it's everything you want. It's just tone and conviction and delivery. Okay, let me tell you my quick. Here's why I'm crying on the inside.
Okay, all right.
Here's a day in the life that I'll tell you and the viewers. So I'm on the road. This is another danger tour. So it had to be 89, 90, definitely 90 because Stevie Ray passed later that year. But it was I was at it was a theater in Atlanta. I can't recall the Center Stage. Thank you. Center Stage Theater in Atlanta, and it's back before we had cell phones. So I get a call on the backstage production line, right? So we're sound checking whatever we're doing. I think we're opening for Faster Pussycat. I didn't mention. So we're just, I go back and it's my friend Pierre de Beaupart. Do you know Pierre?
is he the Stones guy?
He's a longtime friend of mine. I met in Denton, Texas back in the 80s, but he's been Keith Richards' guitar tech forever. And he goes, Andy, what's going on? Oh, man, I got a gig going on. I said, well, man, I was going to invite you to go with, me and some of the guys in the band have a night off, and we're going to go see Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray. Do you want to go? It's like I should have quit the band right then. It's like, and I've got a gig. I can't, Anyway, years later, I ended up getting to spend an evening with the Stones with Pierre. That's another story. But that was my chance to see Stevie Ray, and I never got to see him. But living in Dallas all the years that I did, I got to know Stevie through all the people that he grew up with. People that kind of grew up playing in bands with him, or a guy named Kim Davis. Guy was in a band called Point Blank, that was on MCA. Another Bill Ham managed act like ZZ Top, and there's a certain circle of guys that play like that, but they're not of the generation that are imitating Stevie Ray. They grew up, in the same area, drinking the same water, with Freddie King in town. There was a thing happening in Dallas in that 60s and 70s era. So another guy named Junior Clark, Jimmy Wallace, but as I mentioned, Kim Davis, who's no longer with us, who I knew from the rock and roll band, Point Blank. Oh, Nicole was kind of their medium FM hit back in the late 70s. And he's a good guitar player, but he and I and Steve Mueller, a longtime friend of mine with Mesa Boogie, went out to sit. Kim and I went to sit in with Steve Mueller at his cover band one night. But I'd never been around Kim when he played, and he got on stage, and it was every bit as that powerful, that kind of Stevie Ray thing. And I found out years later they were actually in a band together. I forget what it's called right now, Nighthawk or something like that. But one of Stevie's early bands. But they grew up together playing, and so I kind of feel like I got to know Stevie a little bit through some of the people that were in his life around town, but never got to see him, never got to meet him. I really regret that because obviously he's just one of the greats of all time.
Tragic.
No, you went away and now you've got a Hofner? How'd that happen?
No.
Was it Greco or Ibanez? I can't read. I don't got my glasses on.
Yep. So it's
so what in the world is that?
That is a treasure trove from, dare I say,
Wow.
Doppler's Vintage Vault. So I have been waiting for the perfect moment to pull this out.
I mean, I am blown away because I know Paul Gilbert had quite a collection, or does, and I collected for a long time. I collected lawsuit era stuff, but that must predate lawsuit era. I think, right?
Well,
What
it is
the logo?
part of the lawsuit era, and let's
Okay.
see here.
Never saw it. Never ever saw it before. Oh, that's incredible.
And take a look at that.
Oh, so what am I seeing?
You should be so you would be
I can
seeing
only
that on
see.
the
I saw the Hofner logo, but I.
yeah. That's from your photo page.
Oh, from my photo. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
You're
I just
like,
all I saw was
oh,
this
it
the,
looked
the
familiar.
tagline. Yeah. Well, that must be Mike Dane. That must be Mike Dane's. I think it's called the President or something. He's
Got
got
it.
the single cutaway, and it's a great bass. He used that primarily on the entire Sergeant Pepper record that we did um, back in the day.
So the whole
Anyway.
goal of pulling this out. Um,
Yeah.
Tech support is telling us we have a very faint echo on my end. Thank you for that. We have
Thank you, Texas.
identified the faint echo, and we've decided it's
Yeah.
groovy. Isn't that right?
Okay.
It's groovy. Right, Andy? We've
I
decided we
guess
have deemed the echo groovy. So,
what we think it is my headphones feeding back into my lavalier, and I
and you know
apologize.
what? It's groovy. But thank
Oh,
you
I'm
very
so
much,
sorry.
tech support. So
Yay.
this was a segue into you were
Yeah.
wanting to start playing.
Oh no. This is my nervous habit of I've got to. That's my whoopee. So
So
I just don't let me cut you off.
we've got plenty of time here. So the reason
Yeah.
I brought this up because I was like, well, I know Andy's a Beatles fanatic.
Oh
So
yeah.
before, and again, the danger of dare I say two guys like you and I is kind of like the sound check phenomenon, right? Like you don't want to actually blow it at sound check. I don't know about
Right.
you, but
Right.
when you have the perfect sound check, the
Oh, it's
show
the worst.
sucks.
You just always
what?
know it's not gonna. Yeah.
Why is that? I mean,
There's a certain relaxed energy that can happen. Even when I was playing earlier, you and I were kind of conversing, as we were getting our tech together, and then I was playing it, and I was recognizing exactly that. Well, this sounds really good. I should stop because I'm gonna blow. Because I don't know what it is. Maybe you use up a certain amount of that impulse, and then by the time that same song comes around, maybe it's not as fresh as because you just played it. So, yeah, you need to save that
I love it.
sometimes. Yeah.
So I am old enough that I'm going to presume that the majority of the people that are tuned in tonight are of a similar age, men of a similar
Yeah.
age, that they
Yeah.
can appreciate the fact that we're going to actually talk about the Beatles for a minute.
It
So
could be all right.
I grew
Well,
up.
and for those that don't know, they were this band. Never mind.
No, well, okay, no, but it's a great
What was their
story.
hit?
So my I'm getting old moment happened at
Right.
1983 when I was teaching that music store. A girl comes in and is like, Paul McCartney, wasn't he in Wings?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this was awkward. Oh, darn it. I meant to bring my White Album poster. So
Oh yeah, nice.
do you have a White Album poster?
Yeah, well, I did back in the day. I don't know if there's currently one in my collection because those things tend to get messed up,
Okay.
over time. But yeah, I do. I have the there was then the four color photos, individual photos from that collection. So, like everybody, have those framed in a room somewhere.
So let's first of all,
Yeah,
favorite Beatle.
yeah. Well, it's growing up. It was John. There was something about his wit and directness that really, resonated with me. But all four guys, I love them all for different reasons, but from the same cloth. The Liverpudlian wit and intellect, I think, is a huge part of their appeal to the world at the time that they, came out there in the early 60s, 64, as far as the worldwide phenomena, right? And because they grew up in a tough, Liverpool was a tough town. It was a seaport. It was poor overall. And these guys had a street smarts. I mean, and I'm a huge Brian Wilson and Beach Boys fan. But if you just look at, Ed Sullivan footage from '64, there's, you got the Beatles, and they come out, and of course they've been dressed up by Brian Epstein, but there's just a certain vibe and coolness that they have. And then the poor Beach Boys come out with this, whatever the uptight American thing is, they're just kind of sitting around they don't know what to do with their hands. They're so awkward. It's no less talented, but it's just it was a different world, it's a different thing. But then obviously their musicality, each one of them has such strong instincts. Ringo is truly one of the greatest drummers of all time. Not to get into any arguments over, whoever your favorite drummer is, but it's inarguable when it gets down to feel and how a song is perceived. You're only as strong as your drummer, and just the way Ringo played. And then Bobby Graham is another guy that maybe not be as well known, but he was kind of like the Hal Blaine of the UK and played on, Kinks and Herman's Hermits and Dave Clark Five, and I mean 50 top 10 records. He's like on everything at a certain period. Besides Ringo, right? He was that great. But Ringo was that great, and there's a lot of bands coming out of that time. It was all session guys, So he was unique. He was unique in that way. Had a sound and had a feel, right? And of course, George Harrison's, soloing on "All My Loving" or "Till There Was You." There's just fully formed out of the box, so much knowledge. Just because they gigged so much, they had those residencies at the Cavern, and also at the Star Club in the Kaiserkeller in Hamburg, where they're playing 8 hours a night, and they just learned so many songs and played so much. It's the undeniable Gladwell 10,000 hour kind of thing, where they had put the time in. In tough circumstances, they had to earn it. By the time they hit that they played a theater in the Round in Washington D.C. as the first U.S. concert after the Ed Sullivan Show.
I saw that video.
It's like one of the best rock performances of all time. There's no real PA. Ringo's up there on this shaky platform, beating the crap out of his drums, and it's phenomenal. But by the time they hit that stage in America, man, they were ready. They were firing on all cylinders. It's like when you saw Stevie Ray in '83 or '82, whatever it was, he'd been playing in Dallas. He'd been playing in Austin. He had all these gigs. He was being recognized by the rock elite with Bowie and Jagger and Jackson Browne, all fawning over the guy for good reason. So when he had his chance, like, man, he was ready. And there's so much to that. It's like, there's some luck involved, but it's also just a lot of hard work and dedication, and when the time was right and they had that opportunity, and luckily he recognized that maybe being a side guy, with this iconic artist is not my calling, but I just want to play my music, And fortunately for us, he made that decision when he did. I'm sure he would have, had he done that tour with Bowie, he still would have been making the records with Tommy and Chris. I have no doubt about that. But anyway, but boy, what a magic time. He was just ready, and the Beatles were just ready. And I love all four guys. So you see, you got to be careful with these simple little questions. I just could have gone, George, but you got 30 minutes on. Sorry.
No, well,
I did have a half calf before, because it's this is usually when I'm on the couch with my wife.
I just left that one there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Horizontal. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Just horizontal. I mean, just chilling with whatever it is. My name is Earl, or whatever the brainless. We need brainless wind down at the end of the day. It's a crazy time, and sometimes you just need something mindless. Could be the guitar. That's what I do during the day too. Anyway.
I am, unless you're aching to play, I want to run.
I'm fine to talk.
The first ever. What am I going to call it? Well, it's basically, you get the chance to witness something that I've been really excited to do. So I'm moving closer and closer to having some formatted things in the shows that make sense. And so this little segment, there we go, there's the right word.
It's a segment.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to have Andy Timmons on as we do the first Groovy Gadget segment. And it's a guy that we all know and love because he's hugely famous. And Andy spilled the beans a little bit, but in this, there's a little bit of talk about something that's pretty darn exciting. So with that said, let me introduce my friend, Daniel Steinhardt. Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So glad you could join us for the very inaugural Groovy Gadgets piece. The G2 is at the center of some rather amazing guitar players' boards, most notably for tonight's episode of Doppler's Gear Garage, Andy Timmons. Can you tell us
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
So, all right, hang on a second. So, first of all, you're not just a guy that designs amazing gear. You're a brilliant player. Since we first met, you've become incredibly famous in your own right, which is actually pretty darn cool. And, the funny thing is you've gone from a guy that puts together people's boards and the G2 to actually a guy that people more associate with a guitar on. That must be kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's weird, but I mean, you know, it's great, and I'm really grateful for it. I'm really grateful for what the shows enabled me to do. But I'm still the guy out there building boards and doing that. I still love doing that. Yeah, but it G2 came out of my experience as a player. So I've been playing for a long time before I got to the point where it was like, I need something else that's going to sort this out. So that's where this whole thing started. So I met Andy. I got an email from someone who ordered 2 G2s, and they said one was for Andy Timmons. And of course, I was a massive fan of Andy. I remember at my first NAMM, I remember Andy walked past, and I was so nervous I couldn't speak. And this is when we had the original Pro 14s, and because I love the guy. I love him. His playing really affects me. And if you ever get a chance to go and see Andy live or catch one of his Saturday night gigs, he's the most extraordinary musician. Yeah, so I got really nervous. Anyway, I got this email saying I bought 2 G2s. One is for Andy Timmons. I thought, oh, awesome. And I hadn't heard anything for like a month. So I took a chance and I emailed Andy. And I said, hi, mate. I understand that someone bought you a G2. I just want to know how you're getting on with it. And he's like, I've got no idea what you're talking about. He's like, no one's bought me a G2. He said, but I just had a look at it. It looks really cool. And I thought, oh, wow. He said, as a matter of fact, I'm going on tour with Simon Phillips. I'd like to use one for that. I thought, amazing. So I got a G2 out to him, and he sent an email back saying, it's amazing. I love it. It's going to be the basis of my pedal board. And it sort of blew me away. Anyway, he was on tour in Germany, and a tech was walking around on stage and managed to stand on the back of the power supply to G2 and snap off, which was like, it was so random. It could have happened to any pedal, but happened to hit the back of the G2. And Andy calls me and says, oh, we've got a gig tomorrow night, and this has happened. So I jumped on a plane and went out there to fix it. And I was really nervous because Andy is he's a hero of mine. And so I thought, no, I've got to sort this out. So I jumped on a plane that morning, flew out to Germany, because one of the great things about being in the UK is that we're not far from all these places. So, a couple of hours on the plane, and I was there. And we just hit it off, man. I mean, it took me about 10 minutes to sort it out. It was actually the tech could have just resoldered something inside. But yeah, 10 minutes and that was sorted. He was back and running again. And we just hit it off. And we've been like really close friends ever since. And we were actually going to do a tour. He was going to do That Pedal Show live with us in April. And Andy's a massive Beatles fan, as you know. And I had actually booked us a gig at the Cavern Club in Liverpool. But of course, that got cancelled. But that is going to happen again next year. And Andy, as being a massive Beatles fan, has never been to Liverpool. And we got really excited. It's going to be so amazing. So anyway, yeah, we got 5 gigs, I think, booked sometime next year. Because we've done some That Pedal Show lives, with Joey Landreth, and it's so much fun. So yeah, Andy will be up for that. But I think the world of that guy. I just love him to bits, as anyone that's ever met him does. He's just the most beautiful human.
I love it. All right, so it doesn't really get any better than that. We could stop, and it would be just like,
yeah,
hey.
I mean, and wait, I get to respond. I shouldn't bring that up, but anyway, no, Daniel is indeed, and we did hit it off. It was just immediately, as you can tell. There's something about Australian guys, because he's originally an Aussie. I just for whatever reason, the nature and the personality I really resonate with, and he is truly one of my favorite humans. Just yeah, massively intelligent, great musician, which is how that's why the G2 is so well done. It's like he just figured out sort of all the stuff that we all needed, and just anyway. So it's been a wonderful friendship, and yeah, I can't wait to get over there and do some playing with him and Mick. And it's been so much fun because like you, I knew him before the pedal show. So it's been this great blooming of he is famous now in the guitar world, right? And it started out just that wasn't his goal, and not I'm sure, but yeah, he can't go to an AM show not getting mobbed like Marty Friedman or something. It's like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that happen to somebody that you care so much for and love so much, because he's just one of the best out there.
In the spirit of this segment, before we talk a little bit about the G2 and kind of how it's become the epicenter of your rig, there is a NAMM story. I can't name the names, but Daniel told me this. It's best story. So it's exactly like what you said. So Daniel's at this booth watching another one of his favorite guitar players play, and he literally said tears are coming down his face. It's so good. And so after this is over, a guy comes up and says, hey, and Daniel's there with this player whose name I won't mention, and the guy comes up and says, hey, can we do a picture together? And then hands the guitar player the phone and puts his arm around Daniel.
My God!
Kid
you?
That's
beautiful.
Can you imagine? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, that's it's
that
beautiful.
is priceless. I mean, that could only happen in an amp. All right, so tell us about your setup and kind of, and if you want to play and any of that. And first of all, anybody that's listening, we are using the beta of Ecamm Live, which does not for right now have stereo on the guest function. So Andy has been reduced to mono. So
what's the rare mono mix?
He sounds much better on Saturdays, but this stereo function is coming soon, I've been told. So in any case, Andy, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, well, I know there's a little bit of issue with my lavalier and the tone coming through, but I'll talk a bit about it. I mean, it looks to be fairly complex. This is the most. Of course, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, and I don't have a spare cam to show you. But essentially, I've got the G2 set up, and the main function is to be able to take any pedal on your board to switch it on and off, in any configuration with each patch. And the brilliant thing about it is that once you've engaged a patch, whatever you turn off or on, it just automatically saves it that way. There's no hit save or whatever. So for a guy like me that I don't like to spend too much time getting into digital and interface. Where I have to get down into deep pages of stuff to figure it out. I want to plug stuff in. I want to get work on the tone part of it, not the technical side of it so much. So it's basically a way for me to change the pedals on and off. It's got MIDI function, of course, where if you want to switch on your MIDI gear. And I'm feeding essentially the pedals into the front of a Lone Star, which you can see behind me. This one over here. The head is the main preamp I'm running into, and then it's being split in stereo through the effects loop with a timeline and a big sky. But again, you're not getting the benefit of that stereo, but that's all right. And so the tone right now is essentially, I believe that is just my Carl Martin hitting the front end of the Mesa Boogie. Not really compressing so much. It's really more of a boost. If I turn it off, you'll hear it. So this is just the clean amp. So I'm just kind of engaging that for a bit of a boost. For a clean tone, I'll leave that on, but I'll add the exotic RC pedal. So that's my basic kind of slightly broken up tone. I'll use a blues driver sometimes for just a hair more gain in that. But also a tone that I like to get. I'll get a kind of a dirty sound like that. That's when I'll back down my volume and get a real. So it's kind of a pretty glassy tone. What else would I do? You can also switch channels on the amp. I've been primarily using the Lone Star as mainly as like a clean, like a pedal platform. But I do engage the lead channel occasionally on the Lone Star. And so this is the lead channel of the Lone Star with the RC in front of it for just kind of a good neck pickup. Using that a bit, but the main lead tone will be the JHS. I've got the AT Plus pedal, basically like the original AT pedal with this has got an additional stage of boost if you'd like, which is kind of like an old TS-808 kind of thing, which I'm really rarely using it like that so much because the pedal itself has lots of nice gain. So, but I can go from the for a tune like it's the way these days to the only way to really juggle your tones without massive tap dancing is to have a piece of gear like the G2. So I'm just so thankful that Daniel designed it and that we get on so well. But the other memory about Daniel is, I guess I'd used it for a while, and I don't know if I put my own pedal board together. It's always a bit haphazard with me. Before I had the G2, it was just stuff, with Velcro on just some plywood or whatever it is, But he says, mate, he saw pictures of my boards and, mate, I'm going to build you a board. I'm coming to, and there's a video of it you can find on YouTube. If you just type in, Daniel Steinhardt or gig rig, Andy Timmons pedal board build. It shows him coming to a hotel room in Frankfurt. I think the first gig of this other Simon Phillips tour was at the Big Music Messe, which is like the NAMM show of Europe. And Daniel comes and we had pre kind of decided what it was going to be. He comes and builds it in a day. And then literally I get it on stage for the gig. I mean, there's no sound check. You just throw your gear up and play this, complex, fusion music. Anyway, it came off without a hitch. So anyway, thank you, Daniel, for helping me get my tone together. Major component for me.
I love it.
Every time you come back, you have a different guitar. That's so cool.
Well, this is my excuse to pull out.
Silver Series.
Yeah, so
77, 76. You can tell by it's on the
77.
Yeah, there you go.
So nice. The funny thing is, I pulled this out of the case for the first time in like 3 years. I'm like, oh, it's got the tone. So
there you go. So, there's again. It's just two pieces of wood and some pickups. It either sounds good or it doesn't, But a lot of those 70s Ibanez's are phenomenal, man.
They're great. Hey, we got a question from John Zacco. How is your RC set?
The RC set, let me lift the hood and I'll tell you. So one thing about the Lone Star is like it's got a lot of low end, right? So one of the things I'm doing with it, if you hear just the clean sound without it, now if I engage the RC now, so I'm boosting it. Everything's at noon essentially. I've got the volume and the gain are just about noon, maybe a little less than noon on the gain. Treble is boosted about 1 o'clock, but the bass is significantly rolled off because I want a little bit more just delicate. I don't want to pull around so much low end. So I really like the kind of glassy thing I can get with it. Still plenty of meat there, but it's such a simple pedal. I mean, me telling you my settings, it's going to vary greatly depending on your amp and your guitar, obviously. But with any pedal, just start with everything at 12 o'clock and season to taste, just see what feels right to you. But it's, and like I said, I that same setting is what I use when I engage it in front of the Lone Star lead channel. So here's the lead channel of the Lone Star, not too gained up. The two gains are like, 10 o'clock. So not a whole lot happening there, but if you turn on the RC, then if I go back the clean channel with the RC, this is one of the original ones, and I think they're working on another version that may be getting back exactly to the specs of that. I've been told something about that. Maybe I shouldn't be revealing that too soon. But anyway, it's a great pedal. I love it. You see me reaching down, it's because I've got this smaller footprint pedal board, but it's a two-story. It's a duplex. I have to lift the hood to get to some pedals, which I'm finding a little cumbersome. But we're work in progress.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up the inaugural Groovy Gadgets segment,
Groovy Gadgets. Thank you, Daniel. Yes.
What is your strategy on? First of all, I'm sure there are going to be some folks on here. As much as just about everybody has 20 guitars, 30 amps, and 100 pedals. Yeah. For those that don't have a switcher, can you talk about how you employ this thing to do what you do?
Oh, you mean the G2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have in the aspect that it's just instead of if you don't have a switching system, and if you want to have, like I was having to explain where, for the clean sound, I might just have the compressor on. Oh, then I want to, have that sound, but also with the RC. Well, if you got the compressor on, great, no problem. You just add the RC. Oh, but now I want to use the lead channel of my amp with the RC. I would have to turn the compressor off, and then I'd have to hit a channel switcher for the amp. So already I'm having to do several things, and it can obviously, the more complicated your signal chain with each patch, it just makes life so much easier, and it does so much to improve your signal, the integrity of your signal, because the more pedals you stack in front of each other without them being taken out of the way, so to speak. That's what this thing does. If it's not being employed, even with true bypass, I feel there's probably some issues with putting a bunch of pedals together without a switching system. But it helps maintain the integrity of your guitar tone in the best possible way. That's the nuts and bolts for me anyway. And there's probably lots deeper things you could do with it, but again, I tend to be pretty simple when it comes to some of these things.
That's awesome. Yeah. Fantabulous. So,
yay.
First of all, is there a question that you've always wished somebody would ask you, because you're like, I've just been waiting for somebody to ask me about?
Yeah, can I take you out for tacos? I love that question. I have no idea. I guess I've been asked everything, I suppose. But it's up to them. Throw me the question that I've never been asked. I can't think of anything in particular that I haven't been asked.
All right. Well, one of the things I would.
Sorry.
That's
more. I let you down on that one.
You know what? I took a chance. That's okay. I'm going to roll the dice again.
Okay. Yeah,
so
no, it's all right.
Okay. So so years ago. All right. Here we go. Off I go.
Go.
So I studied with Joe in Berkeley, and I went down to GIT. We'll segue that into the University of Miami. There we go. Note to self. Sure. Okay. Yeah. So, and So I go down to Los Angeles. He gives me this guy Steve's phone number, and I show up at this little terrible little. Oh, what the heck was the name of that venue? So in any case, it's Steve playing for 20 people. That is Steve Vai, of course. And it's like
There you
it's
go.
Stu Hamm and
Wow,
Chris
wow.
Fraser and
Wow.
oh gosh, Tommy Mars. Like it's Steve Vai and the Classified. Like the most ridiculous band. I mean, they were just murdering people. Regrouping on
Yeah.
meters and Steve Vai.
Yeah.
On the original Strat, the Frankenstrat. It was.
Wow,
It's kind of
wow.
like this. I mean, here's the thing. That's what it was like then, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was before Joe's career blew up. It was before Steve's career blew
Yeah.
up. And that honestly, Joe and Steve, in the post Beck Di Meola era, after the fusion thing kind of died out in '78 ish, like there
Yeah.
was a lull of players like you being able to actually pack a place and bring people out, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
in any case, so I'm down there in Los Angeles, and I'm in the midst of all of this, and I completely lost my train of thought. Who knows what the hell I was going to talk about, but it might have been interesting. Gone.
No, you were talking about you were going to segue somehow because it was Berkeley and Joe. You were going to segue into U of M.
Yeah, no, that part I remember.
Okay.
There was some other
That's
really great story, but it is
Tune in next week where we remember.
no,
what
no.
we're
It
talking
was
about.
tune in about 2 minutes ago because it was
Yeah,
all
okay,
over my
yeah.
face and out of my mouth. So,
That's
the
all right.
interesting thing about that time though was watching a young Steve Vai figuring his there we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Back.
Bing.
So the
Okay.
interesting thing is in those days, in fact, look over there you go, or my left shoulder or my right shoulder,
Yeah.
and you'll see the color green.
Yeah, I see that legacy. Is it
So,
legacy?
so the interesting thing is Steve has basically, although it's a little different now, used the same rig template for all those years, which is basically the same rig template that you use. So I want to briefly
Okay.
walk through that, and I'm going to kind of
Sure.
spill the beans, but I want to kind of hear what your take on it is and where you learn to do
Sure.
it. So basically, it's this concept
Okay.
of a slave and master head. You basically use the preamp from the master head. You come
Yeah.
out of the effect center of that
effects-
amplifier. You go
Yeah.
into your stereo effect that splits the output that goes into the return, and then you
Exactly.
potentially in the old school you would use a mixer, a rain mixer,
Wow,
or
I never
something
I never did a mixer thing. I just would run it straight in.
So and at one point Vi had the mixer, and because that was it was not that I would put Steve in that was an LA thing to do, but that's kind of was what people were doing, so you could do it
Right.
like an aux bus in the studio. Sorry,
Sure.
pause button.
No.
For those of you that don't know what an aux bus is, basically it's like the equivalent of a direct track of your raw guitar. You take a tap off of that, you send it to a reverb that you run 100% wet, and then you just bring that fader up so you're not adding any of the direct signal back in there. So this is kind of with the mixer, which would go out to the stereo power amp. That's kind of how the wet dry wet thing would happen. There'd be one amp in the center, and then your stereo power amp to a pair of cabinets on either side. ... True wet dry wet. That is
Yes, exactly. Which I've never done. I've only done just the stereo rig.
which
But I'm sure that would be glorious to do.
but then by the time you're now, if you're going to be, you're a one mic guy primarily, so if you're a two mic person, then you've got all this drama to do with the phase alignment across 3 amps, 6
Right.
mics, and it's just like it's a
Yeah.
whole other deal. So I digress. So the slave and master setup that Steve used back in those days with the X100Bs, and then he continued to use that for a couple of decades. So I'm curious how you ended up with the slave and the master thing. How did you discover that? When did that kind of become your way to go?
Man, I don't recall. I don't recall a specific time, to be honest. I think I was doing it. I was using Laney's before the Mesas. I might have been doing it back then. But yeah, I don't remember this specific epiphany, to be honest. But it became more consistent once I was doing the Lone Star thing. And maybe I did it with the Laney's. I might have done it a bit on some of the Simon Phillips tours. I wasn't doing it back in the Danger days, for whatever reason. I wasn't part of the setup. But yeah, yeah, what that can do, what that can really do, especially with the way that I run my timeline. And again, we don't have the benefit of stereo now, but I've got a good bit of modulation happening in the repeats of my echo, right? And so in mono, that's a nice sound. But when the modulation is spread in the stereo field, and it's only on the repeats of the echo. So what's actually happening is, without the, I'm not going to do this. If I add the echo in, oh, sorry. I have my foot on the wah pedal and not the expression pedal. I'm not used to doing this sitting down. Okay, so with each repeat, it's just take a lot of time to try to get the modulation right to where it just starts going just a bit out of tune. If you get a little over modulated. But with the way the repeats are, the sonic quality degrades. When you work on that part a little bit, it just adds a really nice, call it the halo around the note, and so that can. Again, I'm hearing it in stereo here because I'm monitoring off my interface. So sorry that you guys aren't hearing that. But when you spread that in the stereo field, it really is a nice wide sound that doesn't sound so much like, I don't know. It feels great to me, and I like that. It'd be curious for me to hear the wet, dry, wet, but I think that somebody once pointed out to me that like delay's not really an effect for me. It's part of my sound. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily need to hear it without it in a dry context. Maybe I overuse it at times. I think I could probably be accused of that. But to me, it's the way I hear the sound in my head, and I just want to hear it that way. I don't need to hear it separated.
The sound on Saturday was, so that's kind of my favorite thing is the delay with a little bit of modulation.
Sure.
Into the reverb. So I'm curious.
Yes, that's exactly.
Which, is there a main timeline delay model that you use, and is there a main blue sky, big sky reverb that you use?
Yes, for sure. I mean, and again, it here is part and parcel to who you're dealing with. I mean, these timeline and big sky pedals, the Strymon stuff is so deep. It's capable of so many things. I use 2 patches on each of them. I mean, I'm going to find my sound. If you need a specialty thing, like I'll do a slapback every now and then, but I just have a sound in mind, and it's just kind of my thing, right? So I use the dual delay, so I've got two delays set up, and I just like a plate reverb like you'd use in the studio anyway. So let me turn the echo off. So here's just the reverb. Sometimes I'll give a lengthier. That's literally the same patch, but just a lengthier. I didn't use reverb for many years because that's what my delay sounds have always done for me. I'm using them in a way to where they're very present, but without getting in the way, and that was always chasing that tape echo or memory man kind of thing. And the timeline has just been the best, device for that. It really does a good job. I call it 92% there. It's close, but just so much. I mean, the old memory men. Is it memory man or memory mans or memory men? Because I would use 2 memory man echoes in parallel, just feed one into the other and get the 2 different delay times. But they're very volatile. They're just not they would just be problems all the time. But they sound great. There's something very special about those units. But again, I can get something very close and a much more dependable, programmable. And the tap tempo is handy. Though I rarely get tempo specific with my echoes, because again, I don't necessarily want them to be witnessed so much as felt, if that makes sense. I don't need to hear that. I'm not trying to be edge or whatever, which I love. I love that kind of echo use, but it's really more an ambient thing. And so I really never thought I needed reverb until going to see Devin Townsend. I guess we did a show together. It was one of the NAMM shows. It was called X Jam. and he was the headliner, I think that night. Anyway, but he was doing a solo gig, and he had some loops going, and he had the most incredible sound, and there was like these gorgeous, really long reverbs. I went, that's what I want. That's the space I want to live in. And he goes, yeah, it's a 7 seconds. I'm like, yeah. Devin Townsend just gave me permission to just have more wet, you know. So it's just, I want something that's going to help me sing. I want something that's going to help me play a melody and have it mean something, and not just plink and be gone, you know, because the nature of the guitar is that it does not sustain forever. I mean, unless you have lots of gain, of course, that can be a nice thing. But anyway, I want something to increase the length of that note if I need it. You know, that can be a handy thing. That was all delay and all reverb. And but anyway, so that's it. Yeah, plate reverb, my dual delay, and I could live with that. Those are my desert island effects. If I get power, if the professor on Gilligan's Island allows me power with the coconuts or however they did that. How did Gilligan have a radio? I still don't know how they did that.
It was in his rider.
It was.
Oh, that sounds great. All right, here we go.
All right.
So we got a few pedals here on the floor here.
Oh, that's the tone hinge.
So
that's a later tone hinge. Yeah, that's at Mike Dane's studio.
Oh, hold on, we lost it. Hang on, come back here.
I got you. That's recording. That's recording the theme from a Perfect World record at Mike's house.
Snap! There we go. Let's do that. That's more like it. So there are a pair of Echoplexes there. So I also see the timeline, and then there's another shot that's from that same sequence, which you actually have a trio of tube drivers. So I'm kind of. Were you feeling?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well, you ended up getting some of the 4 knob. Well, I'm putting my specs on to see what you're looking at. The only tube driver I've ever used in the studio is the later 3 knob, and that was the sound. That was the sound of the Resolution record. That was the middle 2 Marshalls. You see the Fawn and the Marshall with half the logo missing. That's a 68 plexi and a 78 or 9 JMP. So the tone of the Resolution record, where those two heads run loud and clean into the two. The front of the signal would have been those 3 knob tube driver. Then I would hit a Framp tone AB box, and the AB box would send it to 2 different echoes. We didn't have 2 Echoplexes during that record. We had an Echoplex, and then either a full tone tube tape echo or a Chandler digital echo. That was really great sounding early digital echo, and that would feed the front of the clean amps. So, but the 4 knob tube driver, which are I guess being reissued by BK Butler, I don't think we ever use those. They're cool sounding pedals, and that's the EJ tone. He's cranking up a Marshall and then adding that for a little bit of boost in front of it. But the way I was doing with the 3 knob, all the gain was coming from the tube driver, so it's a kind of a different thing. Though it's in the neighborhood of, at least that was the goal. If you're gonna try to get a good tone, Eric's not a bad guy to look to for some help. You know what I mean? He knows a thing or two.
Before John asks us, where would you set your tone? Where did you set the controls on the tube driver?
The tube driver, it's a horrible sounding pedal in front of most amps. I've tried it, and that's the one thing that's what I love about the JHS AT pedal. I can put that in front of any amp, and I'll get a good sound. But there's some pedals where they're not as friendly. It's just that 3 knob tube driver only sounds good in front of that Marshall type circuit, and the higher the plate voltage, the better. But the tone on it, it can be very bright and very harsh very quickly, and I've got it not more than 930. I've got it on this board, but again, in front of it's not the friendliest with the Mesa. It's got a thing, but it'll when I use it with the Mesa, I'll use it in the Stiletto, which is kind of an EL34 based thing. Even though I do use EL34s in my Lone Stars, but that front end circuits is significantly different. So that's the old 3 knob tube driver, maybe 930 on the EQ. but it's touchy, man. And like I say, in front of most amps, it doesn't sound very good. I've tried. It's very, very picky who it likes. Yeah. Are you holding a Chandler delay? What is that? Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder what sounds better. I've got mine somewhere. I've got the like this like a cream colored one, right? So I'm not sure which is older, but that's the thing. That was one of the early ones that's got some modulation there, and it's a good sound. That was one of the earliest digital delays, I think.
It's a great sound, and the interesting thing is it's the word is echo, right? Not meaning to correct you, but the point being is if we're going to go down the rabbit trail here, these are basically digital echoplexes. It wasn't like they were trying to get the sound of something. They weren't trying to sound like a modern digital delay that had come out at that time that had this very sound. The interesting thing is the sounds that you're going for, like the dual delay is kind of my go-to one because it's got the modulation on there, and you can. My favorite thing is the dotted eighth and the quarter note because you kind of can't go wrong because they just sit really well, and it's somewhere between 360 to 420 milliseconds. It's just kind of like it's just like right there, and you just leave it, and it kind of works for everything. It creates the wash.
It kind of works,
and then the plate is kind of like the EM. Are you a UA guy?
I am not, but it's not because I don't like it, but
because you guys have that amazing. Hang on, I'll pull up. Hold on, let's see if I.
And when you say UA guy, in what capacity do you mean?
In that there are those of us that do not have this at our disposal.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Everybody have that in there. That is again Mike Dane's incredible setup. Yeah, that's a nice old API board. He's got stuff. No, the UA stuff is incredible. I wish I owned some. I don't have. That's not my studio. Just so everybody knows. I have the best part. I have a modest setup.
The best part is that that's the studio that you didn't have to pay for that you get to use, which is even better.
Yeah, well, no, and again, even before Mike was in that location where he is now, that's in his most recent home. Before he had that, we did the Resolution record at his previous place, so maybe not quite as decked out as that. He didn't have all that amazing board and all the outboard gear.
I'm looking at the Chandler.
It almost doesn't matter. It's even when he had like some 70s Yum or what was just some crappy board. It didn't matter. It was all, just you got a microphone on a good source into a decent preamp, done. It's all the freaking source. What's coming out of that speaker and finding the right spot on the speaker with the cheapest mic, the SM57. You don't need all that, to be honest. I mean, it's handy to have and it does sound glorious, but it's really about, okay, what's coming out of that speaker and will you take the time to capture it properly,
All right. Well, all the amazing people that have been commenting, they've maxed out the feed on my inline thing for Restream.
How do you max it?
But Mark Bergstaller, a great slide player, played with Greg Allman. Which kind of when you play slide with anybody,
I was going to say,
the Allman,
I would think there's a certain level expected. Yeah.
There's a certain level of awesomeness. So he was saying that the cream colored one was first. He was with that's right. He was with Chandler at the time. Hang on a second.
Oh shit!
And I can't bring it into the stream.
Man. Yeah. That's killer. Well, and it's great to know. Thank you for that information because I'm a fan of that unit.
Oh wait! Hold on. It gets better. Hold on. Here we go.
Yay.
Okay, so the cream-colored one was first. I was with Chandler at the time. Also gave Joe his first tube driver Great Memories.
Wow.
Yep.
Incredible.
Because one of yours is a BK, and the other one on your board I saw was
the Tube Works.
Was the Chandler, right?
That's the Tube Works, yeah.
All right, I've got another question here from John Zacco. I'm going to bring it on.
Yeah.
Do you have a routine for getting into the right headspace right before you go into a gig or recording session? Any meditation? Is that where all the arms come out? Is that what you're doing in that photo? You sprout the arms?
I really, I don't know what that was. That was a photographer getting crafty. I'm like, I'll go along with this. Yeah. I'd won on a local like the local, you know, Village Voice type paper called The Observer. I'd won the Musician of the Year or something like that, and so my good friend James Bland, great photographer, said, "Let's come do a photo shoot. Come down to we'll do it at the Hard Rock Cafe. They got this cool room. I want to try something." It's like, let's do a multi-exposure. Oh, great. You know, I'm not Buddhist or any kind of, but I do resonate with Eastern philosophies. I think, you know, as far as meditation goes, I did that for a while, and though it took finding some guided meditation for me to be able to quiet my mind enough to do it, my brain is way too active, and I could never figure out how to quiet that. There's a guy that wrote a book called Effortless Mastery. And it was just about how it's all about these things, all the ways our brain and our you know, emotions can get in the way sometimes. Sometimes our you know, self-defeating thoughts or whatever negative issues you might have. But part of the book was also about you know, he had a guided meditation. It was a little CD that came with the book, right? And it was kind of cool. It was musician centric, you know. And take some deep breaths and picture yourself playing the most wonderful music, you know, or whatever it might be. It was something, but I did realize that I did a lot of this not really being aware of it. I would, when I thought about gigs, if I had a gig coming up, I would always imagine it going really well. Not realizing that was kind of helping me project in a positive way and maybe increasing my chances of it actually going well. I mean, not to say though that I've never really gotten past being nervous. I still get nervous before gigs. I get nervous before doing interviews, which, you know, it's just it's just the way I'm wired, right? But I think it's all this great intent and this desire to do well, you know, and that's a real positive thing. But it can be a lot of pressure. That it could be too much pressure sometimes, depending. So yeah, it has to be balanced. All this to say that, as I wish I did more conscious meditating. I will take some deep breath and close my eyes before getting on stage. I would always, you know, the years I worked with Olivia Newton-John, I would always see her do that. We'd have a little toast before the gig and sit and we'd have a centering moment. We'd all kind of do whatever. Somebody might say a prayer. We might hold hands and sing a tune, whatever it is, which was a beautiful thing to do. But then as we all got our in-ear monitors on, I'd just kind of see her stand there for a few moments and just kind of be in her own space. Because, you know, in a couple more minutes, she's on stage and she's on, right? So I've kind of followed, I've kind of kept that with me in recent years where I'll kind of do that and just kind of try to center myself. But it's an ongoing thing. I mean, the mental space, you know, is so important for a good flowing performance. And it's, you know, we talked about doing these staging gigs. The funny thing is that, you know, I've got to worry about lighting and sound and, you know, getting the mix right and making sure all the tech is working, the streaming OBS going into stage it, and there's people chatting the whole time, and I'm looking over there, you know, trying to keep. So there's so many things that can take you away from what are we really here for in this moment of making music. So it's just these days, especially, it's even tougher, right? But I mean, on a good day, I can let it all go and just be in the music. And that obviously the moments we all live for. The reason we're all here talking about guitar, we love the sound, we love playing, we like those moments when, wow, that note really sounded good. 99 other notes before and after, it might be complete crap. But when you get that moment and that sound and it happens, you're like, what it must feel like for a golfer to hit the ball properly. And it really, you know, it's those moments that we live for and that just drives us to this thing. And I always say that we're so lucky to have that passion, man. You know, and so to really recognize that not everybody has this passion in their life for whatever it might be, you know. You might collect Beanie Babies, I don't know, but that's not my. But it's this. But it's the particular musician-centric and guitar-centric thing. We're so fortunate to have this, you know, and always keep that in mind. But yeah, I wish I had a specific thing to mention, but it's I'm always able to really be in the music in the moment most times, however that happens. I wish I had a formula to say, but a lot of experience, obviously. But my first gig was in front of my own 8th grade graduating class back in 1976, and I was just absolutely mortified. A very shy kid in general, and playing in front of your peers, it's like the worst possible things, like family or your closest friends. I mean, you just want to do well. You don't want to, So, but over the years with experience, you learn how to channel that into a positive thing. But for me, it never goes away. I always want to do well. I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let the people tuning in down, or the other players, or whatever it might be. It's so a reasonable amount of pressure is good. That's how you get better.
We are going to get to the University of Miami very shortly, but the thing that they say about an interview is you're just supposed to get somebody talking, and then that's the goal. Like that is like, so like you basically at that point you just shut up and you just let them kind of open up about stuff and get comfortable.
I should have warned you, because I can ramble too much sometimes.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: is I know, like me and like everybody else on the feed here is kind of like, well, because everybody's perception of you, if I were to kind of pull down from the ether, is Andy walks out there, he's totally relaxed, he's totally like you, and I won't say it's what you project, but it's what emanates off the stage. It's just like you're so calm and in control of the moment, even if you're up on the tippy toes, right? Do you have a name for the toe dance? Is there a name for that thing?
I have no idea where that even comes from. That's the worst thing. It's like I have a hard time. Obviously, these days, there's like every time you do anything, there's videos on. I can't watch, man. It's really hard for me just because I'm not in control of any of that. I don't know what's happening.
It's actually really endearing though, because but the thing is that I think because you have this sense when Andy comes out, and besides Joe, I would say, and I basically just put my foot in it because I can think of all the guitar players that I just said that about, but I'm just going to say it. Besides Joe, you probably are the best walk up and jam in those super high profile moments. And I won't mention what those high profile moments are because everybody on that feed knows what I'm talking about. But you walk up into those situations and you always own it. And the interesting thing is I want to thank you for not playing at the Joe Satriani 35th anniversary. You were off doing something, and we won't go into the details, but I had my moment because you weren't there. I just want to thank you for that.
Well, I might have been out with Simon or something. I haven't missed many NAMM shows.
So
must have been. Yeah.
So the thing is the year before, it's not the Key. Is it the Key Club?
Yeah, there was a Key Club.
So that was
Steve's anniversary, right? Wasn't it?
So I got a chance to sit up in the crow's nest and watch the whole jam thing to go down. Literally the year before I played with Joe, and at that thing. So the neat thing was I had a chance to watch everybody and just kind of go, okay. But the thing is that you're so the great thing about you, first of all, you always own it, but you've discovered something. You are the loudest off of the stage.
Oh.
And with the exception of Yngwie.
I don't know if that was intentional, but you gotta have your sound.
The great thing is I was up in the crow's nest, and when you hit your solo boost, the whole venue, like the level of stage volume. Have you heard Uli John Roth play live?
Dude, I toured with him.
So you know what I'm talking about.
He's the loudest guitar. Okay, and let me just say, easily the loudest guitar player I've ever stood on stage with. I mean, just incredible. And that was a magical tour. And playing with him was freaking. It was the closest to hanging with Hendrix. I mean, there's a spirit with that one. It's very strong, man. Some really great memories. But yes, easily the loudest guitar player I've ever been on stage with.
So that same thing where like the room is like there's no need for a PA. The guitar is that loud, right? And so I was like,
Yeah.
this guy
I don't
knows a
think.
thing or two about how
Are
to be
you
heard
sure
in
it
the
was
room.
my stage volume and not just I paid the sound guy a little more money?
Well, there was the sound. There was no avoiding the amount of guitar in the room. I was like, this guy's got this thing figured out.
I don't
It
know.
was
I
very
remember. Okay,
crafty.
I don't remember that, but I remember. I remember when I played in the line, though. Do you recall that?
You were third base, right?
I was last.
Third base.
Is that what you mean by third base?
Joe always puts me at third base.
Okay,
So
interesting.
you're, and I think he does that because he's always going to be my teacher, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's always
Well, for
going,
all of us, yeah, for all of us.
but the third base is like, so you were going to say about being the last in line.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, it was the memories. And excuse me for not remembering. There's been a lot of great jams over the years, but I think it was Herman Lee and Larry Mitchell and Steve and Joe and Paul and then Tony McAlpine. Am I leaving anybody out?
That sounds right. And again,
But
I've seen,
I mean, yeah. There's been so many jams, but I mean, what are you gonna say after that? I mean, but okay. So here's the thing. Here's the takeaway, and here's what I would say to anybody that finds himself in a position where they're getting to sit in with heroes or incredible players way beyond what you personally feel like you're capable of. All you can do in that moment is just be the best you. You're not going to out Joe. You're not going to out Steve. It's not going to happen. You just have to realize that, if you've been invited, there's a reason. Just, be the best you can be in that moment. I think that's something that we all, and I'll admit, I mean, on a daily basis, I struggle with. Oh man, I'm nothing compared to A, B, C, D. You see it on your phone or on YouTube all day long. It's like, man, I suck. But that's always been a component. I think we're just faced with it more often than usual now. But the real takeaway, and it's only been for me, maybe in the last 7, 8 years, where I'm getting more comfortable with what I'm saying to everybody here, which is, just be the best you can be. Because I think there's a lot of us that feel like, well, I need to be able to do that. I want to be able to play like Stevie Ray. I want to play some good blues. I want to shred. And again, that's healthy because that's how you grow. But then you don't want to get to the point where you're like depressed all the time because you suck. So we need to start a self-help. We need to start a self-help group, or at least I'm saying I might need it. But it's I guess with age and a little bit of wisdom, I'm getting more comfortable with being me. Whatever that may or may not be. But I still feel that way. I still feel like I just so much to grow, so much to learn. But I'm enjoying the process more than I think I ever have too.
That's great.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm going to seize that opportunity, and
yes.
I'm going to extend the invitation to a challenge. Not to
A
you. No, no, no,
challenge.
no, no, no.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like,
It's like
all right,
I
Andy,
challenge you to a
put the
duel.
guitar down. No, that's actually, no. Get the Beatle bass. We're going for
Yeah.
it.
All right. Woo. That's
Um,
a great looking bass, actually. I love that.
uh, you would not believe what kind of global scouring went into finding that bass.
I didn't even know it existed.
Uh,
Never seen one.
it's actually the hardest part is to find one with the original pickups. It's
Wow.
nearly, and so the neat thing is that, I mean, it's just crazy,
Yeah.
and it's in
Okay.
really good condition. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, it looks like brand new.
yeah, it's crazy. So
Stunning.
but I'm going to take this moment before we segue into your education to extend an
Okay.
invitation to everybody that's watching. Andy, you don't need this.
Okay.
But I have been so inspired and so thankful by the amazing support of people tuning in for the show. I teach on Saturdays. I have not had one student drop off during the pandemic.
Awesome, man.
I mean, I've just been, because you kind of go, look, people are having a hard time, like
Oh yeah.
literally nobody. And I was like, you know what?
Wow.
So I want to
Wow.
do
Wow.
something, and I'm going to do it for free. I don't want people's email addresses. There's not going to be a tip jar. It is actually, I'm going to play the trailer, and then this launches tomorrow because, and I'm pretty much, I'm going to say one thing before I do this, and as I've been kind of negotiating this process in my head. I said to my wife, Melissa's like, I think my favorite version of myself is the teacher Doug. Like
Yeah.
I love
Nice.
being in that place. I think there's
Awesome.
that, because you still do some teaching.
Oh man, and I do love it. And I feel I'm getting better at it. So when you feel like you really have something to offer, which I think it was what you're kind of getting at, there's not a better thing, but you're passing it on, right?
You're passing
You
it on,
know,
and
that's the best
it's
thing.
so, because yeah. All right, so let me roll a little bit of video, and this is going to be a lot of fun for me, so long as I can actually find the assets. There we go. All right, here comes. Hey, I'm Doug, and welcome to Doppler's Lesson Lounge. We are super excited to celebrate day one of the Technique Tune-Up Challenge. What we're going to be doing is every day for the next 30 days, I'm going to be sharing a lesson via my socials, video lesson that is going to focus on one technique. So things like alternate picking, legato, building your alternate picking and legato speed such that one isn't faster than the other, sweep picking, tapping, palm muting, all sorts of cool stuff designed to fill in the holes in what I call the Swiss cheese effect. There are certain things that we're good at, and then there's the other stuff. All right, so basically what we're going to be doing is walking through these things using the pretty much same format from day to day. I'm going to introduce the lesson by name. I'm going to talk about what it's going to do to benefit you, and then in turn I'm going to run through the directions. Then I will play through said exercise. Then in turn, I will go through some tips for building the technique that is the goal of that exercise. Then today, there's going to be two other things we're going to do. I'm going to talk about how to get the most out of your practice time by using the metronome, and also then how to build a practice schedule. A lot of players do this thing, they practice a lot, and then they fall off. I want to give you some tips for being able to develop a strategy for practicing some things every day so you're constantly making progress. So with that said, let's get to 3-note per string speed exercise A. Awesome.
Yeah, I want that. I need that. That's awesome, man. Love it.
Thank you. So I
look forward to seeing that. How will we find that, Doug?
it's
Doppler?
going to be. Thank you very. Oh, Andy, you're a gem. So it will be
Where
available.
can I find
Hold
these
on,
tips that I
it'll
want
be.
to learn?
It'll be available on all my socials. Facebook.com/Doug Doppler, YouTube.com/Doug Doppler, Instagram.com/Doug Doppler, and I'm even going to tweet that out somehow. I'm not a big tweeter, but for this I am, and
That's great, man.
so the neat thing is that's what I'm going to be working on when we're done. So the neat thing is that
Great.
I got a little work to do, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And the best part is when I put the announcement up a couple of days ago, just kind of like I'm working on something. All these things came in. People come like, I need help with this or I need help with that. So the best part, I got a chance to create some custom exercises, which is really
great.
neat. Because
Awesome.
yeah. All right. So speaking
I
of
will learn from
education,
you.
Andy.
Yes, dear.
One of my favorite stories is and I think it was when you were still in Indiana, your music teacher there, and it was so funny when I interviewed him about it. He said, you could never do this now, but you guys, and it sounds funny when you say it, so I got to find a way of saying it, frame it right. It was a music teacher. I think it was your jazz and improv and ear training guy, but you guys would get in the room and turn the lights off.
Oh
and
no,
then
that was my class. That's my classical teacher.
Can you care to expand upon that, because I love that?
It's a great story. So yeah, my so that's back to the University of Evansville. So and that, I gotta thank you again. I'm forgetting the name of the magazine that you did that interview for.
Unfortunately, Collectible Guitar is.
Collectible. So there was one of the greatest pieces anybody ever wrote about little old me, and I appreciate it. But the best thing you did, you went and sought out my guitar teachers, from back in Evansville, Indiana, and that meant a lot to me. Just so they had a little more opportunity to get a little shout out, And I mention them in a lot of interviews, but that really meant a lot to me, Doug. Thank you. So he's mentioning. So my first teacher was a guy named Ron Pritchett, and I started with him when I was 16. I've been playing since single digits, but by the time I was 16, I knew this was going to be my life, and I thought, well, I need to learn how to read music. I was already playing professionally, had my steady top 40 and rock band I was gigging with, but I wanted to learn how to read, and he just happened to be a great jazz player. He was in a Barney Kessel style playing, right? So I started very basic lessons, learning how to read, and he'd teach me some jazz, and then as I got to be the college age, I graduated high school, and mom clearly wanted me to go to, some kind of college. And I found that the local university offered a classical guitar program. I thought, oh, it's guitar. I know nothing about classical music, but I started going to the library and checking out, Segovia and Julian Bream records and learning about the style. And I literally auditioned on a Les Paul. I had an Electra cream-colored maple neck bolt-on Electra guitar, which was made at the same factory that made all the Ibanez guitars. So it was identical to the Ibanez and Greco and Electra. But I auditioned on that guitar to get into a classical program. Didn't even have a nylon string guitar. Got in. So I was there my first two years of college, and the head of the department, Renato Buturi, wonderful guy from Milan, Italy, great player, great classical teacher, but he also knew a bit about jazz. He played saxophone, so he was a very worldly guy. I grew up in a very small town minded area. So to have this guy from Italy, and to have done all these things all over Europe, and he's he's Italian. He's great. He's got a great vibe. I was still playing, 3 nights a week in my rock band, and I was still taking jazz lessons. And so classical wasn't getting the attention that it should have. But so there was a few times where I showed up for a lesson a little less than prepared, let's say. And it's okay, let's just play, and we'd be with our nylon guitars. So he would literally turn the light off. And so what does that do? It takes any visual stimulus away, right? It's only your ears, and we would play just completely atonal. We would just play and respond, right? And I didn't realize how massive a lesson it was at the time, but it was massive, because it's like, what is really our most important tool? It's our ear. It's not, can I play these lines that Bach wrote in the 1700s or whatever it was? That's beautiful, and it can be a great teaching experience. But those moments were the ones that really, really showed me something. This is the important thing, being able to recognize what's happening around you and being able to respond to it. And it translates to everything that you do. If you're on stage, with 8 other guitar players, well, there's a good chance that you just don't need to play right now. How about not playing? But recognizing, or if you're playing with a singer, do you want to maybe avoid that register that the singer's in and support the best you can? It's not always about you. Whatever it might be, every situation, but it's the ear. The more experience you have of recognizing in immediate real time analytics going on in your brain, like what's needed or what's not needed right now, right? And plus, that's just great ear training. If you're sitting in a room with another musician and you're just playing with whatever comes to mind, you can't see what they're doing, you can only hear. It's a beautiful experience, I tried it years later with a couple of my students, but again, these days maybe it's not the most.
Hey, you want to sit in the room and turn the lights off?
Come on in, Joey. So anyway, but it is something that ear training is so important. We have so much visually fed to us, and I certainly go to YouTube if I'm having trouble figuring something out. Let me go watch the guy play it, or there's bound to be a tutorial. Well, man, take some time and try to use your ear. That's our tool, man. That's the best we can do.
Well, I got the cherry for the top of that ice cream sundae.
Yeah, go.
I would say of all the G4 pinnacle moments, where were you in Dallas? It's with Joe. And he does the whammy bar thing.
Yeah.
And Andy out of the middle. Where was that? Because it's on YouTube. Okay.
That was one of my earliest YouTube moments. That was in that Cry For You clip that you played earlier from the Hoshino anniversary. But Joe had come through. I think he's only played the Dallas Guitar Show once. So that wasn't a G3 tour. That was just a solo gig where he came in without his band. They had a local rhythm section, learn a few of his songs. Joe was under the understanding there was going to be a rhythm guitar player. There was not, and he wasn't happy about it. But then, so I got brought into Loop to play a few songs with Joe, and I was obviously happy to do it. We'd played before together with Ibanez events, and he invited me several times for the G3 thing in Dallas, which I was always very humbled by, because he's such a hero. But that was one of the jams from that day, and it was just one of those things where it was two guys really listening to each other. We've all played with a lot of players, and sometimes it's great, but sometimes, it's not as musical as it could be. But there was just some really beautiful moments that happened, and we, recognized it at the time. But then as things go in the YouTube era, somebody was videoing it, got put out there. So I see Joe at the next NAMM show, and he goes, "Hey man, did you see that video of us playing?" Like he really liked us. Yeah, man, what a cool thing to get captured. But yeah, there was really neat moments where we're just having a dialogue, and it was really musical. He's obviously easily one of my biggest influences, and means so much to the guitar world in general. But to share the stage with some of these guys that had such an impact, and to have a moment like that where he's like, "Yeah, man, did you see that?" So, I mean, those are my life highlights, man. I'll never forget that.
Okay, but that he's talking about, because I know what he's talking about. It's not just the whole thing, the pinnacle.
Yeah.
So Joe does this whammy bar thing, and Andy pulls out the exact note with a pinch harmonic. It is instantaneous. I was just like,
oh man.
It was the most ninja badass. Just step back.
That's funny.
Because I'm going to put that foot right in your mouth. Not that you were doing that to Joe, but I was like,
no.
Oh, it was no, not that you were doing that to Joe, but I was like, favorite. I have never seen anybody just pull it down and just like, yeah, there's that note.
I got lucky.
Oh,
my favorite bit about it is there's something that happens at the very end where he's holding some note, and both of our guitars are feeding back, and we get this contrapuntal feedback happening. It's one of the neatest vibrations I ever felt in my life. I want to go back now and check it out. One of the rare things I might go back and check out. But yeah, anyway, there's some things you couldn't possibly plan any of that. Probably couldn't replicate it again. It's going to happen in the moment, or it's not. So that's one of those things about the early fears of YouTube was like, oh my God, what if I suck and I put her up? These days it's like, fuck, I don't. Hopefully I have a good day. There's going to be bad days, and just be the best you can be.
I love it. All right, I got a couple of segues here.
Yeah,
we're actually gonna take a slow trip to Miami.
Oh.
Let's see if I can do this right.
Wow.
Holy cow! I'm supposed to be much fancier at this, but I'm having so much.
You're doing
time.
very well.
I'm so distracted because I am on such an endorphin high. I can barely operate the stupid mouse. Holy cow! All right, so what we've got here that is so cool. First of all, obviously there's the AT, but there's the Squier Strat that you played for all those top 40 gigs at the University of Miami and all that other stuff.
I don't see the wait. The Squier that I have is black with a black pickguard. So let me see.
Oh, then what are the blonde Squiers?
Okay, this was we were recording a song called On Your Way, Sweet Soul, and we were convinced it was definitely going to be a Strat. It had to be that vintagey Strat kind of thing. And so at one point we had 20 Strats in the studio. So this is just scratching the surface of Strat Quest. The Strat that I had was it's an '83 Squier. That was like the first year that Japan came out with the Squier line, and they were quite good guitars. And it was black with a black pickguard, maple neck, and I had put EMGs in it because the pickups that came with it were a little dodgy. And then the EMGs, courtesy of Steve Lukather, back in the day, he was my big hero. I mean, still is, but I mean, at that time, it was like everything that he did was just, we had to buy every record that we found his name in the credits, So I still have the guitar, but that was not in that shot. That's a variety of other Squiers, because at one point I decided, well, I need to find some other of those Strats because they were really cool. But what ended up happening within that Strat Quest, and I don't have it in the room now, but not knowing that we were going through this Strat Quest, this luthier friend of mine, guitar player named Sam Swank, said, "Hey man, a customer of mine just brought in this 1960 hardtail. I think you should hear it." He says, "Well, oh man, we're right in the middle of trying to do the song. Do you think he'd mind?" No, he's cool with you borrowing it, right? So he brings this 60 hardtail in, and you've played some vintage Strats. Some are great, some are not. Right? It's not just because it's vintage. But this one just had this. It was like I plugged it in and it was immediate, like, OMG, this is the sound. How do we not give it back? Can we do? I still have it. So it just turned out that this guy, was a wealthy guy, had a big collection, and would bring guitars in every now and then for tweaks. And we came upon a price that was fair, and it was one of those moments where I really didn't have the money, to buy like vintage guitars like that. Just never been really in my financial wheelhouse. But something happened where some money came in that I did not expect, and it's like, okay, God, thank you. I'm not sure how this is happening, but I was meant to have it, and He graciously was happy for me to have it. So I couldn't believe that the guitar appeared the way it did, and that I was able to hang on to it. And so I think it makes it on quite a few tracks in the studio. It just has a beautiful sound. It's a little weird that it's a hardtail, because you with a Strat, you're just you'd be reaching down for that. But for whatever reason, this one just sounds amazing. And so very, very fortunate, I feel, to have it, with me for a while. As we know, we're just stewards, they're passing through our hands, right? But for now, I'm glad that I get to use it every now and then. It's a special guitar.
Speaking of stewards,
excuse me.
Bless
Hello.
you.
Just a touch of the SARS, just a bit. Okay, I'm good.
All right, so this for the real
Oh yeah.
geeks. Now, the $20,000, $10,000 mic, but I'm actually talking about.
Oh, let's not bicker and argue about how much the gear costs.
I'm talking about the Acoustic 360. So when you think of that amp, who do you think of?
Well, you think of John Paul Jones and Jocko.
So
Mike Dane, because that's Mike's sound, man. He's got three. I think he brought three to a gig once. It's a glorious sound. It is a thing. Did I get the answer right? Is that who you think of? Jocko?
Yeah, absolutely. And the power amps down in the cabinet. I mean, so that was the Plexi Marshall of bass players, right?
No doubt.
So,
and it's a commitment. That thing's a big, heavy thing, man. It's the B3 of the. Well, I guess the SVT is
the SVT is no slouch, right?
Yeah,
actually,
we could say that.
The funniest thing is, I'm not a super tall guy. And so I was the orange demo guy at one point. So this room had basically every orange amp in the world. And I was tasked to take that, basically all the gear here, down to a NAMM show. And you imagine a guy, I'm 5'9" and some change, trying to put a box on the top of an 810 cabinet and get that thing into the box.
Oh, man.
All right. So the Florida connection. So there's actually this group. And I had tech support saying I need to ask some questions, so I want to make sure we do that. The other thing is we have a giveaway that we are not going to forget about doing. So all the people that have hung out, now I'm being totally mean because I'm totally teasing, but we do have a giveaway, and it's going to be cool.
Yay.
And I will make sure, and I will not do the U.S. only. We'll pick somebody, and then we'll figure out how to do it. I will make sure it gets sent to whoever it needs to get sent to. So
awesome.
The University of Miami. So there will be everybody who knows what I'm talking about knows I'm talking about the Dixie Dregs. They know that I'm talking about Narada Michael Walden. They're going to know all those players went to the University of Miami because that was the place. Not that Boston, isn't a place, right? But at that particular time, the University of Miami was the place to go. So Andy, why don't you kind of tell us kind of how you heard about it, who the players were that inspired you to go there, rock with it.
Oh man, so it was at that time that I was at the University of Evansville. I was studying classical, but admittedly, nylon string guitar, it wasn't what was lighting me on fire. It was the electric guitar, right? And though I loved my time there and learned so much by being exposed to classical music that I had never heard before, it just wasn't what I heard growing up. So as much as I did learn and appreciate that, I'm an electric guitar player. So it was a bass player named Clayton Crone who I was in school with, and he was telling me about the University of Miami and how the Dregs had formed there and gone there. And I'd been hearing some Dregs, and I was a big Pat Metheny fan, especially at this time with Off Ramp had just come out and maybe the Travels record. And, Metheny famously had been there as a student for like a week, and they made him a teacher or something like that. And then Jocko, of course, had hung out there. And it was, they had a jazz guitar program. And so I couldn't afford to actually go and audition, so I just sent a cassette tape. I had a local friend in Evansville, Indiana, Billy Ball, keyboard player that was in a band I was in for a bit. And he helped me just put a little demo together. I think I played a simple version of Misty and a couple of grooves where I just soloed over some stuff. and got in somehow. And but it was because, you know, again, but Matheny was a big thing, and the Dregs. But easily the 2 years that I spent there, I was there from 83 to 85, and easily the two biggest years of my musical maturing and growth. And I think it was partially because, you know, I'd been, you know, kind of a big fish in a smaller pond there in Evansville, Indiana. I was a good player. I'd been gigging professionally since I was, you know, 13, 14 years old. But you then go to a place where and it was a selective thing. I mean, maybe not as large as Berkeley was, but there was, you know, 20 or 30, maybe 40 guitar majors, but a large portion of those players were just freaking badass. And it just so happens that the dorm floor where I was living on campus there was a lot of guitar players, and the curriculum was great and the teachers were great, but it was just being around guys that were so much better than you. But I should say we all, you know, there was so many guys that had, you know, great sets of skills. I was decidedly the rock guy, you know. You know, at least at that time, this rock guy wanted to be more like a jazz guy, and all the jazz guys wanted to rock more, you know. So we all hung together. We all learned so much from each other, and just being around some of the greatest players, you know, in the country or the world, basically, at that really fertile young time, I guess, whatever I would have been, 20 years old. And getting your butt completely kicked and challenged. So in school, learning about theory and chord scales and all these things I hadn't really been exposed to on that level. Then I had a top 40 band gig that I was playing 6 nights a week. And if you weren't doing that, you see your buddy go, "What are you doing now? Let's sit and let's play, you know, play some standards for however long we have." So it was total immersion, but having the gig, it was learning paired with application, which is the most important thing. I mean, if you're learning a language, if you don't go to Germany, you're probably not going to have many opportunities to speak German. I studied German for 4 years in high school, then never got to use it until many years later going on tour, and then it starts to come back. But you have to use it, right? So all this vocabulary, all the Charlie Parker and, you know, Joe Pass solos I was transcribing, I would employ that, some of those lines into Borderline by Madonna, whatever, at the gig, right? So it was just the perfect storm for me. And I, you know, thank goodness I had a mother that was able to help, you know, fill out all the loan applications, because we didn't have any money, and it was kind of a rich kid's school. It's funny, anybody outside of the music department were driving their Porsches and Ferraris to class, and I had a '68 Fury that was lucky to, you know, get around the corner. You know, so you paid back student loans for about 10 years or so. But again, the experience was so valuable. That's why, and so to do these guitar camps, like we did the G4 one together, and many that we did the last Steve Vai camp, didn't we? And so it always takes me back to the Miami time, because it's being in an atmosphere, in a situation where you're surrounded with people that have the same goals. You know, you might be at different levels. You know, there might be some better, maybe some not as fully formed. But the passion is there, and the goal is there. We just want to make music. You know, we want to learn how to be better at doing this thing that we love. So the Miami time was special, and then that gets rekindled every time I do one of these camp things. You know, I just did one with Andy Wood and Joe Bonamassa, Mark Lettieri, Brent Mason, and Greg Koch. You know, not long ago, and it was the same thing. It was just, man, being around the world's greatest players, is humbling and just so inspiring. But then all the other people that are there too, because they love it just like you do. It's incredible.
I think my favorite camp with you was, I believe, a Paul Gilbert camp, and you and Mimi Fox playing jazz. I you know, because you know what it's like to see somebody play the other side that you know, it's not that you didn't think that they couldn't, but I watched you play that music and I was like, because I can't play jazz. I love you got to have Johnny, or let me rephrase. At some point, you probably own Johnny McLaughlin, Electric Guitar Player, the album, like I did. Like there was a whole McLaughlin phase in my history.
Yeah. And actually, I got to be honest and say I haven't been there yet. I know it's waiting for me, but I honestly have not been there yet. So
okay, may I make?
I will check that out.
Okay, yeah, so the album that, if you want to really kind of dig in, is Visions of the Emerald Beyond. That's the first album with Nard on it, and is arguably the
Wow.
best drum sound
Ooh,
you
okay.
will ever hear. It
Wow,
is
wow, wow. What year? What year are we talking?
76.
Wow, nice. Okay.
That's instant liner notes. I can't remember my name half the time,
Yeah,
but
I
he
know,
asked me
dude,
what
but
year that record came out. Oh, that was it.
I
Who played
understand.
on it? Oh, that's Ralphie Armstrong and Narada,
Yeah.
and Jean-Luc
I
Ponty.
love it.
Oh, dude. So the
Yeah.
first
Oh,
track,
nice.
fulfill this dream, fulfill this dream. It's
Yeah.
nuts. It just starts
Oh,
off with the most ridiculous double bass
yeah.
toms with some life in them, and Narada just and he'd come from the University of Miami, so it's just like.
Yeah.
So the
Oh,
point
no,
being
I'll
is,
check that out.
on Johnny McLaughlin electric guitarist, there's he does My Foolish Heart, and
Oh, I
it's
love that song. Oh
just
my God.
and McLaughlin with so again I'm presuming everybody, I'm pointing to where I can see the feed here, so just so you know, I'm pointing to you. It
Hello.
makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
So
sure, sure.
the thing is that I'm presuming that 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 and I bet you've seen the photo. It's Wayne, it's Chick, it's
Hmm.
Herbie, it's John,
Yeah.
um, the Miles Davis band.
Right. Sure.
So all those guys were in that band. So it was the
That's
fusion
incredible. Yeah.
school,
It was a Fusion School. Yeah.
and so McLaughlin came from a jazz background. He was a
Right.
studied, serious musician, and
Yeah.
the electric
Incredible.
intermounting flame was like kind of where Joe and I kind of connected. Like our first phone call,
Okay.
I
Wow.
was on the phone and I was like, "Yeah, I'm into this." He's like, "Yeah," and then I got to my vision, like I was in, right? Like I was like, yes, I was like, "Oh, I got a
Oh, that's
waiting
right.
list. I'll call
Yeah.
you back in a couple months," right? But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment was classic, and
Awesome. That's awesome.
so the way you played that music.
Oh
And
man.
I have a passion for that, but it's and I'm kind of working towards some
Sure.
enunciation of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's something, and it's something that's heartfelt, and that's what I loved about watching. Like you can see,
Yeah.
how do I say this without insulting people? You can see people who learn textbook jazz,
Yeah.
and then you watch somebody play it who has a passion for it. And I watched the way you
Yeah.
played that music with as much passion for which you play
Oh
the rock
man.
stuff, and I
Well,
watched
it's
you
all the
and
same. It's yeah.
but I watched you and Mimi and the level of mastery of playing in harmonic circles. I'm like, I love what he's
Uh,
doing. I have no idea what it is, but I know that I love this. And you and
it's
Mimi
the
were just
same.
like,
It's well, I love her dearly, and her time feel is incredible. So there's two important components right there. But it's really the same stuff. I'm not treating that any different than I do doing the rock stuff. It's all the same voice leading. It's a different touch and it's a different tone and it's a maybe harmonically may take you different places, but it's really all the same, and I love it just as much as anything. Playing a simple 3 chord song, or it's just. But that's the thing. It's one thing to, like you say, textbook jazz. You have to hear it. You have to listen a lot. For it to really come across authentically. And if I read you right, that's what you're saying, and I greatly appreciate that. But I feel like kind of a beginner jazzer. But what I can play, what I do know, hopefully it will come across authentically in that. I mean, I've absorbed a lot of it, and it even though it may not come across directly when you hear my basic rock playing, there's a lot of the feel and a lot of the dynamic that I've gotten not from other rock players. It's been from the jazz players, and not just the guitar players, the horn players. The way Charlie Parker would swing through a line dynamically, there's just worlds and stacks of textbook stuff just from the way he flowed through a line, And so all that's kind of in what I do in everything, right? At least that's my goal. But it influenced me a lot in some not so obvious ways, but it's a thread that's pretty deep. And so had I not gotten back into practicing jazz, which only happened in the last 10 years. And the quick story was that I'd heard that Matheny was going to do one of these camps. Okay. Like the ones that you and I have done a bunch of now, but it's the same thing. People can pay, they can come and hang out. And there's Pat Metheny and Jack DeJohnette was going to come, and Larry Grenadier on bass. And the guy putting it on, unfortunately, went bankrupt kind of during the process, and it got dodgy. But I couldn't afford to go to it would have been something that I would have been able to spend the money on. But I was going to maybe do a trade-off. I'll do some clinics for the guy, et cetera. It just didn't pan out. But the quick takeaway is that because I had the thought of like, oh, I'm going to play in front of Matheny, it was at once the most amazing thing and the most terrifying thing ever. And I hadn't been playing jazz on a regular basis in many, many years, actually, And I started kind of putting some practice time in and go, oh man, I'm really sucking. This is not good. And so every day I started making it part of my practice regimen. Got this iReal Book app. You could play standards, any key, any tempo, any feel. Local buddy of mine, Nick Knurk. Hey, let's get once a week. Let's get together and play. Standard of the week club. Okay, great. Let's do it. All the things you are this week. Great, fantastic. And he got into this habit, and it was about 7 months in. So I started to notice a little bit of difference. I never got to go to the camp. Right, it didn't happen for whatever reason. There was a lot of obstacles. But all that being said, just the simple thought of me playing in front of Pat Metheny changed my life. It got me back into practicing jazz, for one. But the more I did it and the more I got back into the student mentality, because life happens, man. We've all had our careers. We all do 1,000 things to make a living and to go where we need to go to do whatever. I wasn't that guy in Miami anymore, right? I wasn't in school immersed in playing with my buddies, and I've had a career, and it's been fine. But I wasn't honoring the gift, whatever gift I have, I wasn't honoring it like I was earlier in my life. And that experience of just even thinking of playing in front of Metheny, I was like, man, I better get my shit together. It was one of the most amazing things and I never sat in front of the guy. So it's pretty amazing. And that was just a decision. It was just a thought. And that's the way life is. That's all it takes to change your life. To change your life in any way that you think you might need to. It's that impulse of like, this is what I need to do. And you can do that any day, any moment. You can say, you know what? Yeah, I got to get up 30 minutes earlier and I got to work on this, or whatever it might be in your life, So I warned you. Well, how I digressed there, I don't know. But all that to say is that when I met up with Mimi at those camps, I was more ready. I would have been more hesitant, like, oh man, I don't know. But I'd been working my ass off, and it was really because I was so happy she was going to be this. Like, man, I got a jazz buddy. I know I can sit and play some tunes, and I'll have fun. And so I ended up I played on her last record, and we did some videos for Mesa Boogie for the Rosette amp, and we've done a couple of gigs here. She's come to. There's a great music store and venue here called the Guitar Sanctuary. And she's come I've set her up for her to come a couple times and do shows, and we'll play together. It's just, again, when you run into this with certain musicians in your life where the time feel is so strong, the way you feel it together, that you just almost can't go wrong, And she's like, and I should also say she's a immensely more in-depth jazz player than I will ever be. But again, just some basic musician skills I can hang in there. I've got some knowledge of how to navigate the changes and all that. So we have a great time together. But it's a situation too. She wants to rock a little bit now. She's not a jazz snob, which is great. Some jazz are gonna be, oh, that rock. These guys. But she has a great appreciation. She loves Paul Gilbert. And then Vi, because she was on Vi's label too. She was on Favored Nations for a bit back when in those days. So love Mimi, just incredible musician.
We are starting to get to the winding down point, but I need to field a couple of questions here.
Yes, let's do it.
We have paid homage. We've talked G2.
Yes,
we have talked the beauty of the amp that is the Lone Star.
We love the Lone Star.
And I will give my micro plug here for the Lone Star.
Yes.
You can get the clean channel dirty and the dirty channel clean. It is absolutely lovely. It has the boogie reverb. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I was looking. It's got the boogie reverb and it's got the Fender reverb. There's a switch on the back, and it is, and they're markedly different, but they are lovely. It is a great sounding amp. It's a brilliant pedal platform. It's kind of their. It's a kind of a Stevie Ray kind of a vibe, and it's just a beautiful amp. We've plugged Strymon quite well, so everybody's going to march out, go buy a Timeline and a Big Sky.
And
but let's
Carl Martin compressor. Thank you, Carl Martin.
That's right.
Making my awesome dual compressor there.
The AT pedal, which is actually we're going to be giving an AT pedal away. So Andy, while I'm continuing to emote, I want you to
Yes.
think of the trivia question
Ah, okay.
that is going to be. If you think of the right trivia question. I'm going to leave it there. So
Okay, cool.
there was a. So first of all, the guitar. We have not paid homage to that guitar. So just so you know,
Oh.
like I have been trying to get your guitar for at least a year. It may be 2 years. Like you got to understand.
Yeah.
So I've been on my guy because I've been his endorser since '95. So
Wow, okay.
it's like so I've been like I want one of those because it's it is dare I say esoteric.
Well, yes. I mean, if you look at the more recent ATZ version, it's the first Ibanez with 3 single coil space pickups. Look at that. The AZ line they have with the roasted maple neck. It's very nice.
Oh, rub it in. Rub it in.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Just like open the wound
Christmas
is
coming,
open.
man.
Would you like some salt with that shaker?
Oh, come on, man. I know somebody. We can trade Hoffners and we'll hook you up, man.
You're gonna hit me up for my EP1 in a sec.
I've never actually played through one, to be honest.
What?
I've never played. I love the EP3. I don't know that I've played through an EP1.
Well, you got to come out to California. So I've got
I'm gonna come out there. Yeah.
So I've got the
let's do it.
EP1, I've got the EP2,
Okay.
and I've got the EP3. You've got the
Yeah.
EP4, I think, with the tone controls. Is that correct? No, you don't have the tone controls. You got the EP3. That's right.
EP3s.
That's right. That's right. That's
EP3s,
right.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
So okay. So first of all, the amazing Sadie Haddad, who everybody adores.
Yes, she's awesome. Hey, Sadie.
So she is
Sweet.
finally own an ATZ 100. Spent a year
Wow.
trying to get one since Vi Academy. Thank you, Andy and Ibanez. Best guitar I've ever played. How's that for an endorsement?
Awesome. Thank you, Sadie. Oh, she's incredible. It's a really sweet soul.
So here's the problem that she's having. And I
Okay.
realize I'm slightly calling my friends at Ibanez out, but I think I know what happened here. Whammy
Okay.
bar shipped is so loose it falls out. Please, how do I fix that?
It's an easy fix. What you need, there's a little Allen screw. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this, but if you it's how do we do this? If you depress the bar in such a fashion to raise the block, there's a little Allen screw, and you would have been provided a set of tools along with the guitar, and you just have to tighten it up. Do the tighten up, as Archie Bell and the Drills would say. Do the tighten up. There's a little Allen screw that may not be so obvious because it's underneath here, but you just got to pull the bar down. It'll expose where that Allen screw is. A little tricky to get to, but that's how you tighten that up, and that will solve all your problems.
The irony, Sadie, is that when that guitar finally would have showed up here, because I'm believing, I'm holding on. I would have been right there with you. I'd be like, "You sent me the wrong bar, guys. Doesn't stay in."
Man.
So Sadie, like, I totally feel you. So
Yeah, there should be a more obvious instruction, but there might have been instruction manual, but it's kind of thick. So
that's awesome. Okay. So I heard that there were other questions, but I'm not really seeing. Like, wait, there we go. All right. And I love this SRV YJM. What kind of guitar does that guy have?
Yeah, exactly.
And well, you actually kind of said it. Andy, your voice leading, is that one of the things you derive from jazz?
Absolutely, because I mean, as we start off as rock players, we learn the pentatonic boxes, and we know that's going to work. If I know what key I'm in, boy, I got it. I got my little map here. I know where to go. But in jazz, yeah, when you start navigating from the, to really, a scale will work, but it's not going to sound necessarily good. And it really gets down to, like you say, the voice leading, sevenths and thirds, and how they resolve together. But then it gets into just tension and release in general. And so, yeah, I mean, I consider every tune kind of like a jazz tune. I'll be aware of the whatever the presiding overall scale that may work at a certain time, but I'll be much more aware of what that chord is and what if I play this note, is it a chord tone, is it a non-chord tone, and if so, where does it want to go? It's all about a note, what preceded it, what's going to happen after it. So it's this kind of game of flowing things in a certain way. But a lot of that awareness started with voice leading through basic jazz standard changes for sure.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I interrupt? Are you good?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, I've got a couple last minute questions before we give away
Sure.
the
Oh yeah.
AT Plus pedal. All right.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of being answered here, but I would love to know, Ivo, I owe you a Facebook message. It's been a little bit of a busy week. I did not forget about you. I actually answered like 3 of the like 10 messages that I've had that have been on the
All right.
overflow list. I'm
Oh
getting
man.
there. So his question was, what are the pickups on there? I actually
Oh,
would like to know not only what are the ones that are on there, how did you decide which ones you were gonna put on there, or was it a Blucher thing?
well, it started off as a Bill Comiskey thing. Um, Bill Comiskey was one of the main guys at Ibanez when I first signed with them around 1991. Chris Kelly was the artist relations guy. He ended up moving on a year or two in. But Bill Comiskey was I was involved with quite a bit. He was in Ben Salem. He wasn't in the custom shop, but he was in Ben Salem. He says, hey, I had the idea. I wanted a guitar based on, the old S style, as they say. I had this kind of a parts neck that I really liked that Kramer had built for me from either a Chandler or a Warmoth parts back in the early 90s before Ibanez. And he basically, I knew I loved the original pickup up in this was a Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck. He said, you should try these DiMarzio Cruisers. They're noise canceling, kind of sound like a single coil, but they're humbuckers. Great. Just recommendation from a friend. Great. And that was what was in my guitar. And then subsequently there was the AT300 guitar that was the mahogany rosewood neck guitar that we built. And at that point, Steve Blucher designed a humbucker for me that ended up being called the AT1. That was, it was kind of voiced like the Duncan Jeff Beck, but we things that I wanted to tweak with the high end and the low. We tweaked on and really came up with something I love. But I kept that old Duncan here just out of superstition. I guess the original one. It finally died, and so I swapped my own pickup in it, which happened to sound better, thank goodness. And so yeah, but the thing about it for years too is that the neck pickup was a Cruiser bridge pickup, and again, it's just the way it was sent to me. I dig it. Fine. Never messed with it once. Finally decided, well, I wonder what the neck pickup sounds like. Because I was getting so much low end in the way I was running my Lone Star, I thought, I bet that neck pickup will sound a little brighter, and it's going to be something that I think, and it does. So that's why this one's a little less aged looking, because it's an actual neck pickup in the neck position where it had been the bridge Cruiser initially. And that's it. I tend to stick with stuff, man. Once I get something that's working, I have other guitars. If I need, a classic single coil thing, I've got some old, Fender things that I might use. But also having now the ATZ with the Cruiser bridge in there, it has a very single coily sound, and it sounds glorious. I love it.
All right. So the thing that I noticed on your live stream, it looks like the spacing between your tone controls is not a traditional Strat spacing. It looks like the tone controls are closer together to each other than the middle tone. The middle knob is to the bridge. Is that an illusion thing, or are they actually spaced differently?
It might be an illusion because I added this coil tap, but maybe there is a little more distance between. And again, I didn't have anything to do with this. This is the way it was built, and fine.
I thought it was a genius move.
Are these equidistant? Are these equidistant on a Strat?
Yeah.
All right. Well, whether they're not, I haven't measured it, but that's
totally.
Good eye, Bruce.
Totally.
Good eye, Bruce. Yeah, but this is a coil tab, by the way, that was only added maybe 3 years ago. It's just tapping the just the bridge pickup. I was shocked how well it works. Actually, I'm glad I tried it. Anyway, but yeah, the spacing is unintentional, or not to my knowledge anyway. It might have been something that was being done on some other models of their guitars or something. As you can say, it's like an RG style shape. So,
and
man,
correct me if I'm wrong. You broke the pick guard here, and then the new one just has like a little blunt.
It's interesting because both things were accidental. This came off after it was just started. It was a very sharp Florentine here, so it just warped at some point. It had kind of curled up, and then one day it was gone. And I still to this day get emails and like, are you ever gonna fix that pick guard? It's like, no. It's like, no. This is the wear the guitar has now. With the new ATZ, what they've done is they've softened the points on the cutaway, and the Florentines are shorter, so it's really just in line with what's appropriate for the cutaway now. So, but people think that they're imitating this particular, broken pick guard, but that's not the intention. It's just the way it kind of rolled with the newer body shape.
Well, you could have had me there. You could have had a nice fun with that. Oh, Doug, well, I really wanted, it affected the tone of the neck pickup, and I really, the sympathetic vibration, it's where the placement of that screw is, that harmonic at the 24th fret there, if you move the screw, there was just this dissonance that I was getting.
Well, you can't over-tighten it.
Well,
seven turns, that's it.
Not 6, not 8, 7.
No, so not good. The 5 is right out. Thou shalt count to 3 with the holy hand grenade.
All right. So with the accent there of Doug DeJong, wait, hold on. There we go. What's Andy's favorite Aussie saying from Olivia?
Favorite Aussie saying?
Yeah, like good on ya. Did you? Because you pick up the accents. I mean, you do a great Ringo. By the way, I've never told you do a great Ringo.
Face and love. That's all I got. Let's see. Favorite Aussie thing. I can't try to think of any sayings of them. I'm gonna blank. I'm thinking. It's the good on you. I mean, it's just I don't know. I'll think of something eventually. Right now, I'm just kind of blanking out. My apologies. Good Lord.
Yeah. So Andy.
Yes, dear.
Honey, what is going to be the magic question? And so I guess I've got to figure out how I'm going to pick which feed it's going to come. So can I make a suggestion that's enough of a doozy that hopefully I'm going to see which? I got to open up 2 windows here. Okay. So
What level of difficulty should I make this?
Difficult enough that whoever answers first on either Facebook or YouTube it is truly first, and I'm not like, oh snap, the answer came in at the exact same time. Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Hang on, just one second. Let me preclude this with our friends Josh Scott at JHS Pedals is a gem. He's one of the most knowledgeable. Like, if you haven't seen, I mean, again, we had Daniel at the beginning. I mean, look at this. Bookended with Daniel at the beginning and Josh Scott at the end.
Yeah.
And he's just, to frame the conversation about Josh, Boss put out the Angry Charlie pedal. I mean, that's like kind of like the Super Bowl of pedal designers when, as a boutique guy from Kansas City, to have your pedal.
Yeah, who worships Boss? I mean, that's just
So all right.
His videos and what he's doing for education about the world of pedals and gear. It's just been so great. I just love watching his stuff so much. What a great guy, and obviously very 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 proud that we're working together. It's been a great thing.
I love it. All right, so let me separate some windows here, and I'm going to tune into the Andy window. And let me just pull these apart so I can have them in separate feeds so I can monitor the chats separately. Okay, because it's going to be a race it's going to be a drive race. Far beyond driven or something. I don't know. Hang on, almost there. Almost there. Oh. Oh. You are too funny. I love it. Look at this. All right, I need more monitors.
Tell them what they've won, Don Pardo. Well, they've won Rice-A-Roni. Yeah. what they'll win if they get this question right.
Okay, I think I'm queued up here, Andy. So it's all yours. Let's do this.
So in 1964, Paul McCartney dreamed a song. He dreamed a song. He woke up and found the notes on the piano. Didn't have lyrics yet, but he was working on this tune. It was so amazing. He thought, certainly I haven't written this. This must be some other song. He played it for George Martin. He played it for John Lennon. And he started coming up with lyrics. And the song eventually was Yesterday. But what was the working title for Yesterday? Before he had the words Yesterday, he had something else. What was the original title of Yesterday?
All right,
Anybody?
we have a lot of yesterdays here, so we
Yeah.
do have some Beatle fan. That was a noble try. There was a Strawberry Fields. You got to give that one an A for effort.
Yeah.
Andy,
No, it is the song Yesterday, but before it was called Yesterday,
right?
it
Can
had
you
a
text
different
me that
working
answer
title.
so I know what it is? I actually
Yep, I
don't know
can
this one.
That's I asked you. How difficult to make.
I think.
Did
okay.
somebody get it?
No, okay, hang on. Hit me and
I'm just trying to take my phone out of I put it on silent. Out of
Okay,
respect
hold
for our
on.
interview.
oh snap.
So there may okay. Here we go, Doug, and I'm gonna get you.
All right.
Here we go.
Oh my word.
It is extremely obtuse. Either they know it or they don't.
Well, somebody here is going to know. Now I'm hoping that. All right, there we go. Oh no! I saw it come in, and I actually did think that I saw it come in, and I know who it is. I know who it is.
You know who it is? Okay, good.
I
Yay.
know who it is. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Should I
and
sing
he
it?
knows who it is. So the best part is my buddy Tom Atkins. Now, not only is my buddy Tom Atkins, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tom organized your happy birthday song.
Oh my God, that's right. Oh, it was incredible. Thank you. Scrambled eggs. My oh my, how you have lovely legs. Anyway, and the cool thing, and Jimmy Fallon is the coolest guy when he does musical stuff with all these amazing. His Neil Young impression with Neil Young. Oh my God! But he had Paul McCartney on one night and said, "Would you do scrambled eggs? Would scrambled eggs?" And he said, but then they came up with a second verse, waffle fries. Oh my baby, how I love your thighs. Not as much as I love waffle fries. Anyway, there you go, folks. Scrambled eggs.
Andy, on that note,
turned out to be a good song. Yeah,
it wasn't a bad one. He spent a lot of time sleeping after that. He was like,
I think
"There's got to be another one in there.
Let another one come." Yeah,
please.
Exactly. Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been here. Let's go to the Andy Assets slide here. So up. Okay.
Hello, Donnell.
So tell us about the guitarexperience.net.
Oh, yes. So I have a subscription lesson site called Guitar Experience, no E, guitarexperience.net. And every month I post a new song. I'm going through my entire recorded catalog, and each month I record a playthrough. And then in addition to that, there's usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours of tutorial from me explaining every note, telling the story behind the song, the writing, the recording. And I have a guy in Brazil that transcribes everything, both the notation tab and GPX format. So it's a great way to learn in that regard. And then I post a bunch of other stuff with that, just stories of people that, players that I've met, and other lick builder things. So just a very guitar lesson centric site. And so there's that, the guitarexperience.net. You can go check that out. Yes, indeed. Please do.
All right. I have been told, what was the name of the guy that announced the wrong Miss America winner? So I'm going to beg a second pedal here. So my tech support has informed me.
Yeah.
Dave Sawyer. So you know what, Dave? You are also a scrambled eggs winner. So guess what?
Oh, great. We got two.
We got two winners. So I will find a way.
Okay.
I will beg, borrow, or beg and borrow.
There you go.
So you guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right. Sorry about that, but we'll make that happen. That is awesome. And I didn't know that. I'm a bit of a Beatles fan. Andy,
there you go. Bit of
before I had
trivia.
my momentary lapse of reason,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
so tell me about some of the stuff that is best purchased from AndyTimmons.com.
Well, okay. So, in addition to the guitar experience .net, what kind of led me down the recorded lesson path was my association with the True Fire Company, and I've done at least three different lesson series, and then something called In the Jam. So I had one called Electric Expression, which is kind of an overall course about the way I think about guitar playing and music, and one is called Melodic Muse, where I get pretty deep into, where does melody come from, as far as how do you develop melody? How can you develop a melodic voice? And I really proud of the course. It came up with a lot of ways of kind of teaching ways of working towards that melodic goal. And another cool course called In the Jam, where I created 10 different tracks, recorded in the studio with a rhythm section. And then you're able to play along with the track, or you can take my guitar out, or you can take rhythm guitar out. The different ways that you can jam along with me and actually have these backing tracks. And you can get all those through AndyTimmons.com. You can go to TrueFire, but it's more beneficial to me if you get these things through AndyTimmons.com if you're interested in some of the courses. And they're really, really well recorded. I love working with the TrueFire people, and we'll be doing more in the future as well, in addition to my GuitarExperience.net course.
And then the stage side of things,
Yeah.
we did a little bit of research. There is not apparently an Andy Timmons kind of homepage on there. But how
Well,
do people tell? First of all,
yeah.
where can people? I'm sorry, I didn't actually create your social media links.
Well, that's
My
fine.
bad. No scrambled eggs for me. Where can people? What's the best place
Yeah,
people can go to stay informed about your
sure.
upcoming live streams?
The best way is to just follow me on all the normal socials. If you go to Andy Timmons Official on Instagram and on Facebook, and I think it's called Andy Timmons Band on Twitter. I post on there. But also, if you just go, essentially, you can be sure, like clockwork, unless a comet hits. I'll be every Saturday, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Central Time. There'll be two shows every Saturday. The 2 o'clock show lately has been electric, more ATB centric material. The 8 o'clock show has been me doing Beatle tunes and 60s and 70s covers, singing and playing. Yeah, they're actually singing. Got a lovely old 63 Texan Epiphone, and sometimes I pull out the Rickenbacker 12 string or a J160E. And those have been a blast. And so those two time slots, but you can always go to stageit.com and just type in my name in the search, and it'll show you what gigs I have coming up. I only book them the week of, so they're not that far in advance. So come check it out, man. There's a lot of fun. There's a really cool community coming to every gig. Bunch of great folks. Have a great time. And like Doug was saying, we got the sound really, really dialed in. So it's a very musical experience, hopefully.
It's actually ridiculous. Like it's
Yeah.
off the chart, and needless to say,
Thank
the
you,
playing
brother.
is phenomenal.
Every now and then I get one good note. That's all I'm looking for.
It- yes, I almost went to that tuning joke, but I was like,
Yeah, no.
I actually
That
had the
worked.
good
That
sense.
worked on. Thank you.
Yeah, I
And
just left it alone. All right.
why?
Before we get out of here, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in.
Yes.
And how do you turn one pedal into two? You give one away. Um,
Yeah. There you
so
go.
I just want to thank everybody again. I will invite you in terms of my socials as well. Excuse me. Stay tuned in the next 30 days. If you're wanting to get, kind of a technique tune up, I'm super excited to just kind of be able to work across the kind of the range of kind of techniques. And usually people there's the peaks and then the valleys. So the idea is to try and pay attention to what the valleys are. And please keep your comments coming. It's been great. If you're on YouTube and haven't subscribed, I would invite you to do so. Please, if you would, hit the like button and also, ring the bell so we can let you know when stuff happens. We go online with this show every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. I do not officially have the next show booked. Sometimes I wing it a little bit. but there are some invitations that are floating out there, and I will say this: it is highly probable, but not official, that my buddy Justin York, who plays with Paramore, who is one of the premier IR guys in the business, like, when you think about the IR lovers like Pete Thorne and Steve Stevens, and apparently there's a 10-page long thread on his IRs on the Gear page. To make the Gear page 10-page blog roll there is kind of a big deal. So he's a lovely guy, and he's somebody that I've had the pleasure of getting to know. It's highly probable that he's going to be on here next Wednesday, which means that and I've had a sea of questions asking about, and it's like I'm pretty much getting multiple questions a day. Thinking about moving from the analog thing over to the digital thing, the slippery slope. And so invariably, I think we're going to be talking about that a lot. So, it's going to be interesting. And of course, even Mesa Boogie, they made the Cab Clone IR, which, Andy, if you haven't tried that, it's phenomenal.
It's great. It does it is great. And it's a really, really useful tool for sure.
The IR, so the difference between the Cab Clone IR and the IR Plus is the IR Plus has not only the reactive load, but it has the power amp function as well, as I recall. It's the difference between the two. Which means that you can actually kind of get a little magic going on in the room with the guitar. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Andy, thank you. It is always a pleasure, dude.
Always good to hang with you, man. I always have such a positive energy about what you do, and I appreciate it. And I can't wait to check out your lessons. This is going to be a fun 30 days, man. Go, go, go.
No jazz, I'm afraid.
That's all right, man. I got plenty of work to do on all fronts. I look forward to it.
What a pleasure. Well, thank you again for making time. And
man, happy to do it, brother.
And I cannot say without enough emphasis, Saturday, what time is, I'm sorry, the early one is what time Saturday?
2 p.m. 2 p.m. Central Time, CST.
I heard the best guitar tone I've ever heard on the internet with this guy, because you know what it is. By the time it ends up on YouTube, it's been crunched, and the definition of the delays and the reverbs were only a reflection of what was happening in those fingertips. You sounded amazing.
Thank you, man.
A real artist. It was really a pleasure. I was like, wow, watch this guy do this. So well done.
Well, come on by, everybody. I'll see you on Saturday.
All right. Cheers. Thanks so much. See you next week.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.